They took a bite of that apple and then they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And on the back of every one of these phones, what do we see? We see a half-eaten apple.
The whole world is watching Emirates right now. How have they done this?
They call him the unofficial mayor of Dubai. Joule Sullivan, cryptocurrency expert, entrepreneur, Daniel Pekic.
You're 100% right. Hollywood has spent millions of dollars for people to be racist.
The Western world is sick. Modern culture is sick.
It's strange that I used to criticize Islam before I'd even read the book.
So is the devil winning the war?
100%. Look at the state of humanity. Shaitan is strong right now. Shaitan's on easy mode.
So if you come to the UAE and there's no terrorism, no violence, that means all this Islam spreads violence and terrorism is not true.
Hitler. And for somebody to be able to mass influence that many people, that is truly something to be spoken about, something to be learnt about. How he was able to blindly lead people to kill people. So my car's in the garage. It's been there for 2 months. So we've decided to come and podcast at this beautiful cigar lounge in Nira. And I thought I'd take this opportunity to do a three-way podcast.
How can we not say this?
I thought I'd take this opportunity.
Three-person podcast.
And I thought I'd take this opportunity to do a threesome. And I thought I'd take this opportunity to do a three-person podcast.
Thank you, sir.
With Joule, a mentor of mine, somebody that I wouldn't be where I am today in Dubai without him.
Honored, mate.
And a childhood friend of mine who's recently moved to Dubai, Daniel Pekic. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Joule, for coming on the podcast. You know, Joule, you said something before about, you know, you get asked to do podcasts all the time, but you love doing a podcast because obviously you don't have the time for it, but you love doing podcasts because you don't get interrupted. And every time I come and see you at the shop or anywhere, phone calls, people coming in just to see you. And you almost treat this as an opportunity to have an uninterrupted conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my intent for being here is because I think your message has a lot of weight and should be put out there. So I want to have a chat with you, brother. We haven't actually had a good chat, really, you know, below surface level. Podcasts are a great way to have that uninterrupted chat. And Radin's here as well. So.
Yeah, I'm here to
Habibi.
make sure there's no awkward conversations. And Daniel, a friend of mine from high school, from primary school actually, from Australia, recently moved to Dubai, has taken bit of a fond to Islam, hasn't he, Joule? And
as any logical thinking man will.
Yeah. And Daniel, speak about yourself and just introduce yourself because you're new to the scene.
Okay, so I'm born in Perth like you. We grew up together. And I would say I was a lazy kid, lazy teenager. And I had an appetite for risk. Most things failed, but one thing was a complete fluke. I did very well with Bitcoin. But what that allowed was even more hedonism. That allowed me to continue to live this lazy life, but with the wealth. Traveled all around the world, and I definitely learned a lot of experiences. And I've always been a student. So being an introverted person, I watch the TV shows, eat the cookies, but I also allocate some time for the day for biology and education. Coming here to Dubai, this big lap around the world, living in Australia, Southeast Asia, South America, the USA, Europe, being a dual citizen, here to Dubai, I found the pragmatic take on Islam, even for non-Muslims to appreciate. And that's kind of how my social media has been gathering some steam, because I feel like a lot of my inbox is actually not just from Muslims. It's from people that are not Muslims that I've opened their eyes to the codified structure of the Quran that, and I'm not trying to put down Christianity just doesn't seem to have. See, for me, I read the Bible. I won the religious award in year 12 in Seton Catholic College. But it's vague. It's kind of like a bunch of poems, and I'm just not sure how this translates to how someone is supposed to actually live their life. Whereas with Islam, I feel like there's less up for interpretation. And that's translated here to the UAE. It's one component, obviously. It's not just Islam, but it's fundamental into why I think Dubai is the safest, most prosperous city in the world right now.
Well said.
I mean, yeah, what you said before is exactly on. It's almost not cool to be religious when we went to school.
Correct.
Right? Church boy, right?
They laughed at me for winning that award. So as I walk to the stage to get that award, everyone is snickering and laughing. And I'm laughing too, because that's part of the culture, you know?
Yeah.
But my father, being highly religious, strong Croatian Catholic, it meant a lot to him that I won that award. But I'll be honest, it just didn't connect with me. I'll be completely frank with you. I was an altar boy at the Croatian Catholic Church, meaning I used to wear the robe, Saturday religion school. So I'm not like foreign to Christianity. I know a thing or two. And to me, it's strange that I used to criticize Islam before I'd even read the book.
Oh, we all did, bro. Hollywood spent a lot of money on making sure that we all view Islam negatively. Huge, multi-generational propaganda campaign against Islam. So huge. So we were all criticizing. Don't mean to cut you off, but that's not in any way your fault, bro. Everyone was criticizing Islam before they understood it, from the Western world.
Yeah, I grew up that way. It's almost like within our cliques, it's almost like you have this Western virus that you get poisoned with. It's not just Islam, it's everything around that hedonistic lifestyle, which if you asked me 3 years ago, I'd say, yeah, of course I want to go out drinking or having cook. I just want to have fun. But that doesn't lead to fun, because when you do it every day, you end up, at least everyone that I've known that's lived at the level of hedonism that I have ended up depressed, anxious, and in a nihilistic hole. Everyone.
And so if I could speak to that, Islam has the answer in that every day is a test. You can go with that which feels good and gives you that buzz, for example, drugs or hedonism or casual sex, but also it's going to cost you. Or you can choose to live in a way that brings blessings into your life. A way that we are, by God, clearly directed, as to your point. I grew up Catholic schooling as well, 12 years of it. The level of guidance in Islam is so much more detailed. It's so clear about, especially as a man, as a father, you should be like this. In business, you should be like this. As a husband, you should be like this. And you have incredible role models and very detailed breakdown of the way they live. The Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a husband and a leader to many different families. You have this level of masculine role modeling within Islam that I just don't see within Christianity, with full respect. And that's why I think so many men, especially, and I see also women are being drawn to Islam because the Western world is sick. Modern culture is sick. It doesn't translate to fulfillment, and people are discovering that in their own ways. And their natural solution to the sickness of the Western world and all this degeneracy and hedonism and, hey, do whatever you feel, there's no accountability, which we know results in a lack of fulfillment. The solution to that is clear guidance, clear moral code, and living in a way that is energetically and physically and spiritually clean and healthy, and that is Islam. So I don't even view this push towards Islam that we see with so many different, it's a bit of a trend now, right? I don't view it so much as people seeking religion per se. I see it as people seeking an answer for life, because they see that the way you were told to live in the West isn't actually working for them. So what's next? Now, a lot of people say they found Islam in their worst times, like in prison. You see a lot of reverts in prison. Alhamdulillah, I found Islam in my best times. 2 years ago, already multimillionaire, like more than I'd ever dreamed of. Successful relationships, beautiful children, status, toys, all this sort of stuff. But I was still thinking, what's next? I didn't even need to go down the hedonistic path to realize that the Western way of living, get that cash, get that status, go to the clubs, enjoy yourself. That's not for me. It's never been for me. It's part of the reason why I left Australia 15 years ago. I didn't gel with that culture. The culture that is informed by faith, such as Islam, with very clear guidance, it actually makes you fulfilled. It actually works. Every day I'm getting more and more grounded as a man, more grateful to have found Islam. And just, I don't want to sound too sort of simplistic, but I'm fulfilled. I wake up happy. Any anxieties have gone. Any sort of inner, should I do this? It's gone. I know how I should live, and I'm living true to that. That gives you a level of day-to-day confidence that's deeper than anything else. A day-to-day contentment that's deeper than anything else. So I think it's going to continue as well. As this push for more degeneracy is even in our schools, the only answer. What else is going to stand up to this Western nonsense? What else is going to stand up to these next Netflix agendas being pushed down your throat? The only answer is Islam.
You're 100% right. Hollywood has spent millions of dollars, right? Millions of dollars for people to be racist to people that look like me, right? And from that, finally, you guys are the immigrants, all right?
Yeah.
Finally, you're the immigrants.
It's true,
huh?
it's true.
Now all the years of racism is coming back on you guys.
Bring it on.
But what you said before about Hollywood pushing it, yes, I mean, they 9/11 didn't help. After 9/11, they started demonizing Islam and making it very extreme. What are they demonizing now?
I think what I'm seeing a lot of is people conflating crime trends with Muslims. I have a master's degree in security. I've worked in roles where I'm analyzing crime trends and analyzing civil unrest and all these sorts of things, professionally speaking. And to think that you can say, oh, because there's more crime in Western Europe now, that's Islam's fault, is so ridiculously illogical, yet that's the agenda that's being pushed. If you bring people from war zones who have had to fight and commit crime and do whatever they have to do to get forward in life or even to feed their family, and you bring them to Western Europe, you think they're just all of a sudden not going to consider crime as an option? Especially when they confront racism and there's not proper integration and all these sorts of things. There's a big difference between culture, and different countries have different cultures. And there's a big difference between bringing people from high crime or war zone type environments into Europe than there is to Islam. Islam itself is very strict on crime. You know, not that long ago, you have your hand cut off for stealing something. You know, you bring those times back. But I think that's the main anti-Islam agenda now, is to say, oh, look, all these changes we see from what is essentially illogical immigration policies by Western countries, we're now going to say, oh, that's Islam's fault. That's the main anti-Islam propaganda that I see being pushed now.
Yeah. And, you know, when we did a podcast first at the end, do you remember what I said to you? I thanked you for dissolving the Islamophobia, especially in the West, because you've got a lot of audience in the West that watch you, and you converting to Islam and showing the true meaning to it, especially with Andrew Tate as well, showing the true meaning to it, you're kind of dissolving that conception that Hollywood's created.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ignorance about it. And look, I started life as a soldier, then went into the intelligence world. I wouldn't say Muslims were the enemy, but they were like the boogeyman. That's what the time was spent. I mean, I learned the languages I learned for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Arabic and Farsi and Dari. This was the thing you had to watch out for, you know, the thing that was dangerous. Whereas if you actually read up on Islam, it's anti-extremist. It's very clear on how you should conduct yourself, even within battle. You should show mercy should someone, you know, become a prisoner of war. Like, for something written 1400 years ago, there is so much clear ethics within Islam. Yet what's presented is, oh no, it's bad. Oh, there's extremists. Oh, they do crimes. If people would actually stop and educate themselves on Islam, I mean, you heard that example about a guy who he wanted to blow up a mosque. You hear about this in the US?
No.
And so he was planning on that, and in the process started, you know, learning more about Islam, and you know, subhanAllah, now he reverted and he's quite a strict Muslim. So even if you come from a place of intense dislike of Islam, if you slow down and look at it objectively and actually talk to people who take their faith seriously and look into with depth into the faith, you will see the value in it. And one of the Sahaba, he I don't want to mess this quote up. Was it? I don't know. I've forgotten which one. But basically, it's written where one of the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet, was worried about a brother or a close friend and whether or not he'd revert. And another one of the Sahaba said, don't worry about it. He's a smart guy. He's logical. He will choose Islam. And I quite like that little snippet. I wish I could quote it better. But I really do believe that. I think if anyone who is intelligent has an objective look at Islam with a little bit of depth, a little bit of time, they will choose Islam. It's not even about your sort of, I don't want to say, it's not about your culture or your religion or your, I'm this, pro this or anti that. Islam in itself is such a clear ethical code and has such guidance for life. You can't help but see, hang on, that's useful. That will make me a better human. That'll make society a better society. You can't help but see that if you have a, you know, IQ above room temperature and you look at it objectively.
Yeah. You know, Daniel comes from a Christian background, but I feel like when he talks to me, he resonates Islam a lot more than Christianity. Would you ever convert?
It's on the cards, yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, right now, I would consider myself agnostic and not a Christian, but I've considered myself an atheist prior to being agnostic. So I'm through this phase where I would scoff when my father would say something about religion. Then once you gather enough life experience and you understand there are so many times where you're so sure you were right and then you found out you're wrong, you start to question yourself. Then there's another part after the Dunning-Kruger effect that once you know enough, you're just left with more questions. And there's a saying, a wise man knows he knows nothing. And that's what brought me to this agnostic phase where I'm like, maybe there is something here, okay? And a lot of what my father taught me earlier on that I scoffed at started coming more real later on in life. So I'm conscious of that now. But then again, you know, when I start reading the Bible again and then seeing how it's translated into society, I'm just like, this is not working. I'm really not seeing it generally. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, and I know the nerds, they love to chime in about this exception and that. I think generalizations are very effective because we live in a generalized society. So let's take a look at Pareto's principle, 80-20, even 90-10. It's not working with Christianity, and I think it's obvious in the West. Over here in the UAE, I landed, and I love to study socioeconomic status, financial status, the safety, and I'm just ticking all the boxes that Islam should not, based on what I've learned. No terrorism, no violence, people are accepting, tolerant but not woke. There's a difference, okay? Yeah. And I was like, I've got to learn this. I literally have to pick up the Quran, so I start reading. And as I start reading, I'm like, hold on. This is like when I'm writing company policy, a lack of weasel words, objective language, very clear, step by step, nothing vague. As Jeff Bezos said, when Amazon writers would write for Amazon, he'd say, no weasel words, not we significantly increase sales. It's not helpful in company writing. It would be, we increase sales in this sector by 23%, because it's useful to communicate to staff to be able to scale a company. Weasel words are not useful. So the Quran has less weasel words than the Bible, okay?
It's much more specific, you're right.
It's much more specific. Again, to the nerds that are going to find the exceptions. Oh, what about the extremist Muslims? Yes, there are some interpretations. But if you are smart enough, you can see that they're using those interpretations to their advantage for their own evil. Okay?
And also, for every piece of the Quran which people say, oh, look, that's too severe or whatever, there's 10, 15, 20 examples that say you shouldn't commit any sort of like the Quran is very clearly, I know people don't like to hear it, but it is peace and ethics and mercy based. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah the most merciful. It's all about mercy and understanding and running a society in a cohesive manner. That's the foundation of Islam. So the idea that it in any way enables extremists, to your point, they are taking certain wording and certain sort of ethos and ignoring everything else which balances it out. Because there's a lot of violent words in the Old Testament as well. People forget that. So yeah, hearing what you're saying about the structure within Islam, I think that's the key thing that drew me as well. There's very clear life guidance more than Christianity, and that can't be debated. Even you know the pro-Christian sort of data geeks, they cannot debate the fact that Islam has so much more clear guidance for every area of life. And to your point, that's what translates to action, as if it was company policy. I love that analogy. You have some vague, we're going to do better here, we're going to do great there. It's not going to result in anything. You will do this on this day, at this time, this many times a day. This is how you talk to your wife. This is how you interact with your kids. This is how you conduct business. This is how you conduct warfare. It's all so clear within the Quran. That's why men like us are drawn to it. Because it's like, clarity, specificity. That's what we want. And it works. I love the fact that coming to the Middle East made you think, hang on a second. All this bad press I've heard about Islam doesn't make sense because this society functions. Whereas in the West, we're meant to be the moral high ground types. Society's a mess. Divorce rates through the roof, antidepressant rates through the roof. People are, drowning their sorrows with alcohol and drugs constantly. I went back to Australia, back to Adelaide recently. Cocaine is huge there.
Yeah.
Huge. I had a guy who was briefing me. All the footballers, all the celebrities, all the youth, everyone's using drugs. Why? Because they do not have the foundation of a functioning moral code to live by as individuals. So they are sick, unfortunately, and the societies are sick as well. Islam fixes that.
And they're tolerant. They're tolerant to drug addiction. They're like, oh, you're a drug addict? Oh, okay, sorry, we'll send you to rehab. You're not going to go to prison. Here, you got so much fear, you got so much backlash of doing drugs that you never want to touch it.
Alhamdulillah. That's why I'm happy to be raising my teenage son here. It's great. It's great. There's no issues. I love it.
But you could drink here, but see, in Christianity, the wine is part of the process. Oh, wow. So what that does, that inspires people to taste. And you can always say moderate things, but addicts are addicts for a reason. You see what I'm saying? If I grew up in a black box and I never tried a cookie, I wouldn't crave a cookie. I don't know what the cookie tastes like. But now, because I was exposed to cookies as I was young, I can't get it out of my mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
You
And that's
know?
why I've never touched hard drugs. I don't want to know how good it is. I don't want to know how good Coke feels because I'm sure it's good because I've seen so many men lose their lives to it.
Yeah.
So it's not taking, like right now, my 10 out, if you allow me to interject a bit,
No,
my
please.
10 out of 10 pleasure is as follows. Wake up, prayer, set my intent for the day. Good cardio smash or good lift, cold plunge, sun exposure. Then I'll spend time with my brothers, I'll spend time with my family, I'll go and involve myself in the businesses which I'm running that I enjoy. 10 out of 10 pleasure.
Wow.
I'm as happy as I can be. If I went to take Coke or other drugs, that 10 out of 10 pleasure perhaps would become a 4. And so I'd need that artificial harming substance to get back to my 10. I don't want it. I'm glad I never touched it. I can hit 10 out of 10 through ice bath prayer and training and spending time with high frequency quality people. Like that to me is the goal everyone should have, not I want to go and find these far reaches of hedonistic pleasure such that normal life just doesn't work for me anymore.
It's crazy how little you need to be happy.
Definitely. I'll say
Honestly.
that. And that's why I think it's beneficial to travel to. I mean, I'm blessed to have worked in many conflict zones and I've been in many countries post natural disasters. Like, you see, hang on, these people have objectively nothing, not even a house, yet they have love between each other.
Yeah.
They're good to each other. There's a sense of community. There's a sense of importance of family values. What the West tells you need to be fulfilled is economically driven to get you to feel something's missing inside your heart, so you need to go and buy stuff to keep the economy moving.
Correct.
You need to go take loans for bigger houses than you need. It's all economics based. We really don't need much to be fulfilled. If you have family, faith, decent level of fitness, and ideally you're working towards freedom, bunch of F's there, that genuinely is all you need to be fulfilled. Another F.
Yeah.
Just don't buy too many Ferraris, or that gets in the way of freedom.
Sounds like you learned that from experience.
Talking to myself.
Talking to
right now.
yourself. I did a podcast with Mo Gaudat, and he said to me, Mo Gaudat, he became, extremely wealthy, CEO of Google X, son died, gave everything away.
Interesting guy, yeah.
He said he's all into philosophy now. He says for every in the city that you live in, the line of the medium salary, every dollar that you make to that line will increase your happiness. But once you go past it, it doesn't increase your happiness. Actually, it actually increases to your unhappiness because then you get caught up in the rat race. He goes, I spoke to Larry Page, worth 19 billion at the time. Larry, what do you do with 19 billion? Well, you just buy more jets, more this. While having a jet will add to your comfort, it also adds to your unhappiness because now you need to fuel it, you need to have a pilot, you need to park it somewhere. So these things, so happiness for reaching that line is basically all you need. But anything past that, especially if you get caught in that rat race of he's got a BMW, I've got to get a better one, it will actually add to your unhappiness.
Interesting. I agree and I disagree. I think getting to the point where you're not worried about money coming in is even more fulfilling and living well within your means. Like, ownership's overrated. I've had cars and I have many friends have had boats and big ones and jets. Yeah, that's a pain. That takes away from the fun of it, definitely. Owning a McLaren, for example, will ruin your experience with supercars. Trust me on that one, because it breaks all the time. But when you're at the point now, where I am now, alhamdulillah, where every month there's money coming in through various investments, various businesses, and you don't need to touch it, that to me is deeply fulfilling, because I know I have stored up energy with which I can give zakat or sadaqah within Islam, your obligations to, or sadaqah's above your obligations to give back. And also I know that my family's looked after. For me, that's a lot more fulfilling than, okay, I've got my material needs met, now I don't need to worry. So I hear what he's saying there, but for me, money coming in, regardless of what happens to you, gives you a deep level of fulfillment because you know your people are looked after. And also living well within your means. I love that. Like sometimes people accuse me of flashy living. If I wanted to be flashy, bruv, I could. Like, I have no debt. Every month I would maybe I touch 10% of what comes in terms of my living. I have zero loans. I mean, trying to even downsize my house. No one needs a house as big as the one I have. So when you can get to that money and get to that point where you could keep up with everyone if you chose, but you decide not to keep up with everyone and look after your people instead and just be really, really free, that to me is peak fulfillment. Because owning stuff, it is a pain. It is, pulls you away from what's real.
Could you get to that, what you just said, without actually obtaining it? Could you, before obtaining it, could you say, okay, I'm going to take your word for it and I'm not going to try to obtain it?
Well, it's a tricky one. I preach to a lot of young men who come in asking about success. The number one thing that'll mess up your life is relationships with women. Either you're going to marry the wrong woman or you're going to chase a bunch of women. Sex outside of marriage is the key thing you need to avoid if you want to build your empire. Unusual advice. Men are like, oh, but money? I'm like, no, I'm a risk professional. I'm going to talk about the risks in your life. It's easy for me to say sex outside of marriage is a waste of time because I did a lot of it back in the day, you know what I mean? It's easy for me to say I have no interest in any sort of hedonistic, chasing girls because I did a lot of it back in the day. I saw through it. I think the same thing applies with money. I've had the cars and the flashy lifestyle, and I had well over $1 million of watches at one point, all this silly stuff, for me to then see through it and say I don't need it anymore. However, I'm raising my son in such a way that from day one, he sees that you don't need a bunch of cars or watches. It's just, who cares? You don't want to go chasing women because it doesn't result in fulfillment. One good wife is worth 10,000 girlfriends or friends with benefits. So I think you can get to that point where you don't even need to waste all your time in chasing stuff or chasing toys or chasing status or chasing women. And you can get there, but I think you need to be around people who've done it, who you can really trust and say, you know what? He's just told me he used to own, at one point I had like 13, 14 vehicles. Now I'm cutting it down so I just have a couple. If someone's my friend and they're around me and they trust me, maybe then they don't have to waste all that time to get to the same place. But most people do need to go through it to see through it. It's a real thing. It's just what, especially when it comes to women and chasing women, what damage are you bringing to your life and to their lives in the process? That's bad chi, man. I mean, within Islam, zina, sex outside of marriage, is graded as the same level of sin as murder. And I fully understand why. If you take a good woman who perhaps could be a good wife one day, and then you're very aggressive with her in the bedroom and you show her the world, and she's no longer going to be a good, innocent, giving wife. She's always going to think about you, that first guy who gave her that intensity and gave her those experiences. Have you not potentially ruined her life if your intent is not to marry her? And so that's why I say, I remember seeing a preacher years ago, maybe 5 years ago. It was on Instagram saying, and it was really interesting. He said, brothers here, how many of you want to get naked with a woman when you see her? And then no one put their hands up. He said, you're all liars. You all want to. Every man wants to have sex with every beautiful woman he sees, especially when he's a young man. But he said, if you want to get naked with her, if you want to have sex with her, you must take care of her. That's what God demands of you. And if you don't, you are incurring God's wrath. And this was before I was even considering Islam. I'm like, I like that. That makes sense to me. And we need to be very careful of I don't want to say karma because it's not within Islam, but that's probably the easiest way to explain it. The negative karma that comes from spinning plates and wasting the time and innocence of good women is very serious stuff. So what I'd say, especially the young men out there, okay, you might need to go through certain things to see that they're worthless, but that can bring negative repercussions and negative consequences to the women's lives and to your life, such that really young men need to avoid spinning plates. All this red pill nonsense, they need to avoid it. Go and get X amount of bodies, they need to avoid that. It brings bad energy into your life. It's a really serious thing. I know I've diverted a bit.
No, this is an open conversation. We can interrupt. Is there anything you want to say? I have a quick question.
Go.
You're Muslim, and
Alhamdulillah.
and I'd say you're a beacon. You're like a figure for Islam,
Bro,
for the
I don't
West,
know enough
right?
to be a figure. For some reason, people listen to me when I talk about it.
You don't think you know enough because you're comparing yourself to other people that know more. But for where you are, there's hundreds of thousands, 500,000, based on your Instagram following under you that basically you know more than them about Islam, and they look to you to teach.
I hit about 10 million accounts a month. So
There you
I
go.
think that's
There you go.
a lot. Big number. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would you ever consider having multiple wives?
Interesting question. Probably would consider it. Probably have considered it. What I'd say, because I like to keep, private life private. I think a lot of people think they like the idea of multiple wives, but the reality would be too much for them. Especially in the modern era, you'd be going against a lot of cultural norms that want the men in a position of weakness. If you have multiple wives as a man, then you're in a position of strength because you have abundance, not scarcity. If we look at the Western model, when a man marries in the West, he becomes a self-regulated citizen. Can't go do this, can't go. How many times have you lost a friend when he got married? All of a sudden, his hobbies are gone, his social life's gone. He just exists to serve the wife, serve the job, no time for himself. Oh, sorry, man. The amount of times I've heard men say, "Oh, love to come out, but the boss won't let me. I'm like, bro, it's your house, mate. You're paying for it. What's
The
wrong
boss.
with you? But anyway, but that's the Western model. What better way to control the masses? And the elite in the West, they're aware of the fact they have a lot more than the masses. The constant game is to how do we control the masses? How do we keep them pacified? The single most powerful way to do it is put the man in a position of scarcity such that the only way he can get sex is by being polite to one woman. And if he doesn't, he'll get wrecked in divorce court. Perfect, right? Absolutely perfect. A man having multiple wives counters that completely. He's no longer in a position of scarcity. All of a sudden, he has abundance. He has choice. He has options. So there's a lot of effort that goes into demonizing polygyny, even though it's natural throughout human history and is actually very useful. Throughout human history, not every man made babies. Only the top of the tribe made babies. And the alpha, the big boys of the tribe, they're the ones who had all the babies. And that's, if we look at biology, is normal because within the tribe, you want the healthy genes to continue. You can learn a lot from chimp biology and studying, the social life and the patterns of primates, because they all practice polygyny. And it's the big boy of the tribe who gets all the attractive ladies to make the strong babies so that the tribe can prosper. But when we put that into the human context, all of a sudden polygyny is a bad thing. So I'd say I think it's a noble thing to do. It's sunnah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had multiple wives, so it's something that you should quest for and seek for. But you really need to have it together as a man to lead multiple families. I take my hat off to every man who does that in an ethical and God-fearing manner, because it would be an immense amount of work to be able to lead emotionally in terms of presence and time and love and care multiple family units. That's a huge lift, and I think it's a very impressive thing. And I think it's something that should be looked up to, not demonized like you see in the current day.
I mean, biology doesn't demonize, like you said. Primatology. I'm a bit of a Robert Sapolsky nerd. Shout out to you, bro. I've read all of his books. I've actually had a brief conversation with him on email and another social psychologist. And when you talked about spreading the healthier genes, moreover, the robust genes, because if you're in a tribe with limited numbers, if you want to survive as a tribe, you're going to have robust genes, meaning they'll survive better than the weaker genes, right? Obviously, society is different now, population is getting to a critical mass, but that innate biology, that DNA, it's still there within us.
The deep brain is the deep brain. It hasn't changed. The reptilian brain hasn't changed much.
No, not a great deal, at least not to what people think, right? But at the same time, like I've never, even before learning about Islam, cared whether someone had 4, 2, 1, 0. But to your point before about men ruining young women, I've had a lot of reflection over that in the last, 3, 4 years. Now, when you're in your early 20s, like when I think back to some of the things I said and did, I don't really blame myself. I'm in my early 20s. My brain was like mush and always drunk or high. So it's not like you can blame yourself for something you did when you were 3. You were 3 years old. I'm 35 now. It's not the sort of thing that I would do. But if I could go back in time, would I have stopped certain things? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what men get out of being unkind. Like, be kind where possible. Joe Rogan said this, not me. So it means sometimes you need to be firm.
Just to give full credit, the Prophet, peace be upon him, one of the things he said often, and he said it in front of very large crowds, is be kind to your woman. Within Islam, there was a concept that one of the ways you measure your value as a man, if anything,
It's strange that I used to criticize Islam before I'd even read the book.
Oh, we all did, bro. Hollywood spent a lot of money on making sure that we all view Islam negatively. Huge, multi-generational propaganda campaign against Islam. So huge. So we were all criticizing. Don't mean to cut you off, but that's not in any way your ism. No?
Did you see there was a photo of him in church?
I saw that.
He was in church recently.
Amazing.
And I watched a podcast recently with Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, and Stephen Bartlett goes, sometimes I think to myself, I miss religion. So the West is losing religion so much that they're getting to a point of missing it.
In the same way, when feminism got really strong, then you saw like the red pill and hyper masculinity movement come back with our brother Tate spearheading that. The degeneracy and the nonsense, the wokeisms come. So the response to that is faith, and the most strict and clear and non-woke faith ever, clearly, is Islam. It's not even a competition. So it's happening, man. It's beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's very obvious.
I've got a thing in my phone. It's called Maybach Thoughts, right? I sit in the back of the car, and if I have thoughts, I write it down, okay? I'm going to share a thought with you, and let me know what you think of this, okay? There's two types of fools. There's people that take religion literally, and there's people who think it has no value. Both idiots for different reasons. The reason why you are going to the mosque and the ceremony is not to please God, but to bring people together.
Interesting. I think it's tricky for me to comment on that as a practicing Muslim.
I guess my question to that is, do you take everything in the Bible and the Quran literally? Because how did Mary become pregnant?
I think within the Islamic context, ideally, everything that is written is viewed as sacred and is taken seriously. And I think where a lot of people go wrong is they're trying to, oh yeah, but they'll cherry pick. I'll take this seriously, I won't take that seriously. I think, and it's a tricky one to get into, but, and I don't want to say anything that's going to, bite me later. But let's look at something like music. Within Islam, music is haram.
Haram.
And I can understand the reason behind it. It's the specific wording, because I've looked into it, is the musical instruments piece. So vocals are fine. What's known as nasheed, people, making sounds with their voices. If you wanted to live in the most sort of clean and holy way possible, the only time you should get pleasure from audio, this and that, is when you're reciting the Quran, or you hear someone reciting the Quran, you hear the call to prayer when you're praying, because that's a very beautiful thing. When someone's reciting the Quran well, it is an emotional thing for any Muslim. And I'd say any non-Muslim as well. Music taps into that same emotional state, and it can give you that high, it can give you that, I feel like I'm the man. So I understand why it's by the book haram. However, I also do see that you can get some positive and healthy emotions from it. So that's something I'm still chewing on. I understand that Islamically it's clear. Musical instruments are not okay. But for example, when I hear, say, a beautiful orchestra, and that's something I used to do. I don't do it anymore, but used to go and, like the 30, 40 people sitting up on stage.
The symphonies.
There's emotion there, and I fail to see how that's unhealthy or negative. And so I see what you mean, but within Islam, it's quite strict. What's written is to be interpreted literally and is to be followed. It's not as relaxed as, as Christianity in that sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. But the music thing, the symphony, I agree. It's beautiful, and I look at that and I thank God.
Yeah.
Because I think this is 40 people got together. God created creatures that's harmonized to make this beautiful music.
It's a tricky one. Yeah. Because I used to, play various instruments, and I used to really be into music. I've tailored that back now out of respect for my chosen faith. But yeah, there are certain things where when you interpret them literally, it can hurt a bit in that sense. I just want to say, brother, in terms of your content, which I've been really enjoying, and a lot of the reason why I wanted to have this podcast and talk to you, the fact that you are taking an objective view at Islam and at the values of an Islamic society, keep going, man. Keep leaning into that, because it's inspirational for a lot of other people. And this is why I think when I speak about Islam, it gets a lot of positive feedback. I'm not a sheikh. What do I know about Islam? However, I do know, as a truth seeker, as a fellow truth seeker, that most people in the world, those who don't have faith, and specifically Islam, their way of living is not optimal. And that pursuit of optimal living is what's, I believe, driving you towards faith. And the fact that you're sharing that journey with a lot of people, that brings you something called barakah, that brings you blessings. Because when you spread that sort of positive impact on someone such that you could lead them towards Islam, their entire life will be better off. Their relationships with their wife, with their kids, with themselves, their day-to-day fulfillment will be better off. If that came from watching one of your videos, imagine the level of barakah, of blessings that come back to you. And the one thing I've noticed, since I've started speaking openly about Islam and getting all this positive feedback, I've become the luckiest person I know. So within Islam, there's no luck. There's rizq, there's haqq, there's qadr, Allah. There's many different ways of looking at when things just work out for you. But it all ties back to faith. And in the same way in the West, we have like negative karma. Within Islam, you could call it almost good karma. You bring a good impact in other people's lives, you get barakah, you get blessings back, you'll be given more by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will find, if you keep putting out that message, and even though you're not Muslim yet, inshallah, you're bringing people to Islam by saying, hey, look at the benefits of this, look at the benefits of that. That blessings will positively increase and improve the conditions of your life. Not just your fulfillment, but the actual day-to-day smoothness of your life, the day-to-day luck, as previously I used to comprehend it. You will become more lucky by spreading that message and calling people to at least consider the benefits of Islam. So keep going, man. It's a huge improvement to the life of any man.
Thank you, bro. I'm already feeling that, you know. I did get an interesting inbox from someone. I don't want to name who because I think they're pretty prominent, so I'll wait for that chat. But this person said to me, coming from you, meaning to me, holds more weight in many ways than coming from a Muslim, because the non-Muslims are finally letting the real play out coming from me. Because although I think they should not, a lot of the time when preachers come on who are already Muslim, you just turn off the real. That's what we were used to doing because it's not our clique, so we turn it off. We're ignorant, effectively.
And also, I think in school, whether you're Christian or Muslim, unfortunately, a lot of people feel that, religion's a bit of a chore. I certainly did in my 12 years of Bible classes. I'm like,
For me, it was boring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pushed on you. So I think preachers have infinitely more knowledge than reverts, definitely. But for some reason or another, the reverts get the eyes. And so the duty is on us to use that attention in a positive way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't mean to do this, by the way. I got a few inboxes like, what compelled you to do it? Nothing. I just posted one reel that went viral, which I could have never predicted, right? But what I was so amazed at is because I come from a, let's call it atheist upbringing, but it's the scientific method. And in the scientific method, this is how it works. I'll try and create this analogy again. Let's say you get blue and yellow and you mix them and they make green, right? But in order for that rule to be true, it has to be replicated around the world. She's got to do it, he's got to do it, makes green. But if it makes purple one time, it's not true. So if you come to the UAE and there's no terrorism, no violence, that means all this Islam spreads violence and terrorism is not true. Here's your one experiment in the UAE. So you have to throw it out, do the experiment all over again. And that's why I started reading the Quran. And the first thing that came to mind was the music. It was Faris's reel about music being haram. And initially I was like, come on, man, music. But then I was in that Bentley from Ahmed, and the sound system in that Bentley, man, that's crisp. It's one of the best sound systems you'll ever get. And I'm playing this Latin song because I love Latin music. And I'm playing it over and over and over again. And I'm thinking, 1,000 years ago, you can't replicate this precision and all this audio. I'm getting high off this. It's like desensitizing me, even music.
It's a form of hedonism.
Yes, because it's on repeat. And music people, you all know, when you love a song, you smash it until you can't. You smash that. Yeah. And you waste time. Bro, I've wasted hours driving my cars in Perth because, like I love my cars, getting a nice SUV and just smashing the drill music, the bass, just for hours. And it's like a drug. And then now I can actually see why it's actually haram. And from a scientific point of view, if you just reduce things at least, you don't have to be perfect, no one's perfect. In that list of haram, you'll see you wake up with better well-being and health. I'm talking about better physical health. I'm in better physical health since being conscious of what guys like you do. 100%.
No, it's well said, brother.
I mean, I think that's why it was made haram, because it's taking you, it's more like a high, and it doesn't want to change your mental.
And also it pulls you into the dunya, it pulls you into the physical world. It doesn't get you thinking about, heightened states outside of cars and this, especially modern music. It's all women and status and violence, and I can see the damaging stuff, definitely.
How long have you been in Dubai for now?
Officially, just over 5 weeks, but obviously visiting back and forth, seeing you. I've been here many times, but I had seen the other side of Dubai. And I think it's important we raise this because, these commenters are coming out with it with Dubai. Dubai is the biggest contradiction ever. Guys, I'm not talking about what goes on in those clubs. I'm talking about the local Emiratis, okay, and living out in these family suburbs that are ultra safe. It's completely different than what goes on in some parts of downtown. I love downtown, but I think you know what I'm talking about, right? That brand of Dubai has unfortunately been tarnished by the hedonists, but they're not the only people here, yeah? The Emiratis were here first, remember that. And so I'm clicking with a lot of them. I'm not hanging out. I don't even know the name of any beach club, nightclub. Can't remember the last time I went to one. Despite my looks, I don't drink, I don't take rec drugs. I haven't for years now. And so,
And to your point, bro, all these people who want to criticize Dubai, oh, it's got nightlife, it's got this. I don't see that.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't see the clubs. I don't see people drinking. Like it's Dubai's got something for everyone within reason and within the the legal basis of this country. Just because there's nightclubs and plastic stuff here, if you don't like it, don't go see it. My life is very grounded. I have good people around me. I don't do anything that contradicts my life as a Muslim here. It's funny how people try and throw shade at this country.
I want to touch base again on women and relationships. I find that so many Western women want a traditional man, but they don't want the traditional values. What do you have to say about that?
I'm not really qualified. I don't speak to Western women. They don't exist in my reality, and they haven't done for quite some time. I think marriage in the Western context does not make sense for a man because it's not faith-backed. It's just papers, and you're incentivized by the Western legal system, the woman is, to divorce and ruin the man. I think if you want a traditional woman and a traditional dynamic in terms of relationships, you need to look outside the West. You need to go to places that are God-fearing. Now, where is that? Obviously, Muslim world. Soviet countries are great. The very strict Russian Orthodox places. There are places in Asia that are very religious. If your woman doesn't come from, am I allowed to say your woman? Vice gave me a lot of trouble for saying that once. You can say your husband, but you can't say your woman. You can say your man, but you can't say your woman. Anyway, I digress. If a woman comes from a country that is not God-fearing and she herself is not God-fearing, what's the basis of what is the basis of that relationship? If you're not accountable to God, how does it work? The way it works within Islam is very simple. Man fears God. He does what he's told by God. He is accountable to God. Woman fears and respects, not so much fears, but respects and follows the leadership of the man. That's how the family functions. That's how society on the macro level functions. If you take away the God-fearing basis of marriage and relationships, to me, they're not real. There's no code, there's no accountability of either party. And that's where you get situations where Western women will be saying, I want X, Y, Z from a man, traditional values, but I'm also going to do whatever I want, whenever I want. It doesn't work. Because again, it's not God-fearing, it's not backed by any accountability to a higher force. So my advice to anyone who is trying to date or find a good wife in the West, leave the West. No. Or if you're in the West, find a woman who is genuinely God-fearing and religious and has been raised accordingly. That is wife material. I don't see women without faith as being wife material.
My turn.
What do you think about that?
Very similar to you, bro.
I mean, your partner's Ukrainian.
So I don't have recent experience with Western women. In fact, I don't even have a recency bias, meaning I don't have anything negative to comment. But what I see at least, is that if I was dating back in Australia, that's in the too hard basket for me. I'm leaving, which is exactly what I did. So instead of protesting and changing it, I mean, I see a lot of men go online and they're trying to change a woman. The moment you have to change a woman, bro, it's done. Like, see, with my missus, she enjoys her role. She enjoys me being me. There's no fighting about it. She's like, yeah, I love that you take care of everything.
What would happen if you went into the kitchen and tried to cook?
If I went into the kitchen and cook, unless it's my special recipe, which is a particular pizza, she would just come and take over. But without doing so in a crazy way. She's a very, gentle woman. She's not like how some of my Italian or Croatian relatives are like, get out of here. My baba is non-nerve. Get out of here. Man doesn't do this. They have that kind of ego about them. She'll just come in and just politely take over. But if I want to cook, I can cook. There's no dramas is what I'm saying. So for me, I'll be frank, relationships were never a focus for me. I just did my thing. I didn't even have the internal dialogue about it. Like I would see mates sitting there having dramas with women for months over the same chick, like doing their head over this one girl. And
How many hours wasted, bro?
Days, months, cooking over it, right? And don't get me wrong, after breakups, you have a hard week or whatever. It's normal. But then I just get on with it. It's never been part of me. But with her, it was just easy. There's no challenge. So for me, the moment there's a challenge, I detest the notion of the Western woman that says, oh, but he doesn't want to challenge. He wants to. Of course I don't want to challenge. Why would I want to challenge?
There's enough combat in the outside world. You don't want it in your house as well.
I just don't speak to it at all. But at the same time, I don't want to go and be like a copycat Tate because he does this beautifully. If you want to be like that, you be like that. You find those men. And we're finding our type of women. That's okay. That's why I'm here in Dubai. So that's my answer.
And there's a quote within Islam that virtuous men are for virtuous women and vice versa. Wicked men are for wicked women and vice versa. And I see a lot of this dating, red pill hate towards women. If you're attracting non-virtuous, wicked women, that's because your intent is such that you're looking to do wicked things. And going and having sex with a woman on the false premise of maybe one day you'll marry her when you know that you won't, that's a wicked thing to do. It's not healthy. It's damaging for her, and at a certain scale, it's damaging for the man as well. Less damaging, but still, it's not healthy. So I really do think, to all these red pillars out there who are complaining about the state of women, you are approaching it and acting in a way that is attracting the wrong sort of people. There are plenty of good women out there. There's an abundance of women who are traditional and caring and giving, looking for a traditional, caring, giving man. You know, we have proof of that in this room, you know, alhamdulillah, with our very healthy relationships. Talking about us, I'm not sure where you're at there, big fella.
Oh, I'm not in this conversation.
Why not?
But I think there needs to be some introspection and accountability with all these red pill types. If you think women are trash, guess what, friend? They are a mirror to you and how you're conducting yourself. And you are actually was trash. Every woman has the potential to be, within reason, a good partner or an absolute Stalin fascist dictator of the house. It comes down to how you conduct yourself as a man in relationship, how you lead, how stoic you are, how grounded you are. You're that rock for her ocean of emotion smashing against the rock. You know, you need to be that rock. I think ultimately all these red pill guys are easily debunked because I like to ask a very simple question. I ask the same of feminists. How are your belief systems working out for you? And all these red pill experts on women, how fulfilled are they in relationship? It's trash. All the feminists out there, which is the female equivalent of a red pill guy anyway, how's your belief systems working out for you? Show me a fulfilled feminist. I'm yet to see one. I see a bunch of cats, a bunch of wine, a bunch of antidepressants, a bunch of complaining and yelling at the world. How are your belief systems working out for you? Anyone who buys into that red pill stuff, have a look at the people pushing it. How fulfilled are they in relationships? Are they really in a position of authority to give advice on relationships?
I'm going to float an idea. Does a man need to be with a woman? Is the masculine better with the feminine, or can a man be?
I'd love to speak to that, man. And you mentioned, you know, thinking about the way primates do things. I like to think 1,000 years ago, how much time did men spend around women? Not much. We were around the other men. We were out there hunting, you know, raiding other tribes, doing that masculine frame living, facing risk, you know, training for that sort of combat. Then when it was time to come back and rest and get some meat on and go through that healing process to recover from the combat that we're in, that's where the feminine energy comes in and is super important. A man cannot give you that healing feminine energy. Astaghfirullah, if he tried to, there'd be something wrong. So I think we are meant to live in the masculine frame predominantly. We're meant to be with the boys out of the tribal area and hunting and pillaging and doing what, you know, tribes do. In the modern day context, that's building businesses, that's being around brothers, that's going on adventures, that's mentoring other young men, that's training, you know, physical fitness, all these sorts of things. But when it comes time to relax and to calm and to be healed energetically and physically, that's where a good woman is worth more than her weight in gold. So I think it's about balance of both. But I will say in the modern era, men spend way too much time around women, and you can see it in them.
But finding a good woman is harder than it used to be, right? Social media's ruined it. Now.
I don't know, bro. It depends. What pond are you fishing in, mate?
Yeah.
No. I agree with what pond are you fishing in.
DIFC ain't the place, friend.
DIFC is definitely not the place. Take
Who
my
says
word
that
for
shit,
it.
bro?
Take my word for it.
That's just like
No, let me
buzz
finish.
phrases.
Let me finish. So, if we're going to compare 30 years ago, right, where there was no social media, there was none of that comparison bullshit, the who can flex it, who's got a table there, Baoli, whatever.
Still there, bro.
Right?
Good women don't care about that stuff.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, true, I agree. But if let's say you're right, also the pond you're fishing in as well, right? My pond is very
A bit of a dirty one, bro.
filthy. But would it be better to be solo at the end of the war, or to be with the wrong woman?
1,000% solo. Like a lot of young men who come in, they're talking about wanting to find a good wife, and you are better off with yourself and with faith and with a bunch of good brothers than married to the wrong woman times 10,000. Like in terms of the negative versus positive impact. But also, I think any man who has that focus on finding a woman, is life's in the wrong direction. A woman complements your success and capability as a man. It's not validation of you being the man. It's not what you need to become the man. Once you've built yourself into a man of virtue and capability, and ideally means, that's when you will attract a good woman. The focus should be on building yourself as a man, living per a certain code, getting right with God and living accordingly. A good woman is not hard to find if you're a virtuous man. Again, virtuous men are for virtuous women and vice versa. So what I'd say to all these guys who say, oh, it's harder to find a good woman nowadays, men are conducting themselves differently to back in the day. Back in the day, we had traditional values. We were masculine men. That's very hard to find nowadays. I understand. I've seen some stuff on social media. Apparently in modern day relationships, especially among like Gen Z, it's the women who have to squash the cockroaches. When I saw that, I was like, no, surely not. But it's an actual thing that Gen Z women are laughing about. It is the women who have to get the shoe and crush the cockroach. What a like disgusting symbolic representation of how bad masculinity has gone. So of course that sort of man finds it hard to find a good woman. He's not a good man. I don't think it's hard to find a good woman if you're a virtuous man. Not at all, mate.
Easy, brother.
And also, if you put yourself out there as a traditional man, again, you've got a platform on social media. If you made it clear, for example, we look at Ashton Hall. I mean, fit guy, disciplined guy, doing well, bless him. He doesn't date. He hasn't, as I understand it, been with a woman for a decade because he's waiting for marriage. Bless him, mate. Bless that discipline. Good things will come from that. And he's making that clear. Guess what? The women who are attracted to those sorts of things and had the same sort of religious-based approach to life have shown the same restraint, have shown the same self-control. They will be attracted to that. Like frequencies attract like frequencies. Wicked men are for wicked women and vice versa. It's all written in the faith. If you put yourself out there as a traditional man who is genuinely serious about getting married, and is not interested in dating, is not interested in any of that stuff, it is not hard to find a woman with those same values. Because they all want a good man who is God-fearing and has a strict code that he lives by and is looking for a serious marriage. That's the dream of any woman who's not broken by the streets.
I also see a lot of my friends that were traditional men, had a woman for many, many years, got done, had a bad experience, whatever happened, without getting into details, but, has a bit of bitter taste to being with one woman. Then he's turned from a traditional man to a wicked man.
100%. And that's because Western culture brings out the worst in women. Absolutely brings out the worst in women. And you can see it. I might annoy some people here, but I believe that feminine women are designed to be led by first their fathers and then their husbands. That's how the family unit works. There's a pilot and there's a co-pilot. Even sheep, arguably the dumbest animals on the planet, when there's a bunch of them, there'll be a leader and then there'll be followers. Within a unit, there needs to be that hierarchy. It's natural across all humans throughout history, across all species. So for a woman to be naturally leadable is a quality we all want. We all want a woman who follows our lead, right? The downside to that is women can be led by modern culture. And what does modern culture say? Girl, you go enjoy yourself. Go off to Bali and find yourself. What are you going to find? You're going to find dick. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but it's true. Modern culture pushes women towards non-virtuous activities, and women are naturally susceptible to that sort of programming, especially if they're very feminine. And so that's why you see the worst of women being brought out. Lack of accountability, huge entitlement to any woman who consumes social media or Netflix, all these sorts of things. This sense of, I'm superior because I happen to be sitting on a vagina instead of a penis. Again, I'm speaking, in fairly crass terms, but it's true. That, to me, is what's ruining relationships. It's modern culture. It's not female nature. Female nature has good sides and bad sides. Modern culture is really bringing out and empowering the dark sides of female nature, which is very exploitative. It's very entitled. It's very callous towards the masculine because, hey, you're a man, you exist just to serve me. That's why I think a lot of good men will go in with a good intention, but perhaps the woman gets infected by all this Western mind rot, modern culture rubbish, and then he's like, right, I'm not going to do that anymore. That's sort of the path I went down. I was married for 9 years, got divorced. I was playing the field, so to speak. I realized that's exhausting. So then I moved on to more healthy ways of conducting myself within relationships. But yeah, I think generally speaking, the reason why relationships are so sick nowadays, especially in the West, is because of Western culture making it so. You can see there is an absolutely clear targeted campaign of negative propaganda against family values, against men being men and women being women. This is why we have this she, ja, he, him, same nonsense. And you can see that the modern relationship dynamic is broken thanks to these messages being pushed in Western culture.
Yeah, it's never been for me. You know, my tata's Croatian, so the way that I grew up is exactly as you guys are. When I used to watch you and Tate on YouTube and that, I'd be thinking, I'm like, yeah, yep, like non-stop, like I'm hanging out with the boys. And then I just see him get attacked. And when he was getting attacked, I was working. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't even know who Andrew Tate was at the time. And then people are sending me this and I'm like, attacked over what? And they're like, show me. And I'm like, and?
He's just speaking to traditional dynamics in a very sort of, flamboyant manner.
Yeah, and I couldn't understand. I didn't know what woke meant. I'm not even kidding you guys, till about a year ago.
No, no.
I didn't know what that term
Good
meant.
for you, bro.
And you ask my tata, what's what? He go, what the fuck is vok mean? They don't even know there's another side. They don't understand 50-50 at lunch. Now, I'm all good if like Aussie boys and Aussie chicks want to do that. That's fine. I'm not a virtue signaler. Do whatever satisfies you. But when you're someone that is, I don't know, if you're kicking goals, like all the boys in my crew kicking goals, somehow, all of them, none of them have issues. There's no dramas. Not once has a friend called me like, bro, man, I got this issue with this. Never. Like it doesn't happen in our clique. And what you'll find is when you're kicking goals, they come to you and it's completely peaceful. I can safely say that out of the, 25 years I've been sexually active or whatever, I've had very few days with issues. Not because I'm some master at dating, but because I avoid the girls not made for me. So my advice would be hone in on your niche. Don't try and be someone you're not. Like, I mean, there are so many guys trying to be copycat Tate. And I'm like, bruh, like, it's not you. The chicks can smell that. They see through that.
Really. They are, on a survival level, good at reading people. It's a real thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Tate image, like strategy has been made redundant. Andrew's squeezed every juice out of that lemon and everybody tries to do it. It's like, that's him. It's like if there was a rapper that sounded exactly like Lil Wayne, he's not going to become famous. We've already got a Lil Wayne. You need a new message. You need to carve a new road, right? But what about that guy that's watching this? We're all from Australia, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Aussies watching this. What if that 16-year-old, 15-year-old, he's trying to find himself. He doesn't know what his niche is. He doesn't know where to start. What would you tell him? Where does he start?
I'd say that sexual energy that you have, that you'll either use with porn or dating or whatever, that's what you can build your life with. Control it, breathe through it, use it for training, use it for building, use it for learning. Go and create your empire, create your values as a man, get your brotherhood right, get some adventures, get some stories. The women should be an afterthought, should never be the goal. You can take that sexual energy and throw all of it into women. The ROI on your efforts will be very, very low. Take that sexual energy, that fire. I mean, what is testosterone? It is the urge to fornicate and to fight, to build, to create, to conquer. Take that conquest urge and do everything except chasing women. You'll be such more of an advanced and impressive man. Then the woman, to your point, will come. You get yourself to a certain frequency, certain level of life, you will attract the right woman for you. It's amazing how there is a correlation between something like what you just said. I never really made women the focus, and actually I have very healthy relationships in my life. Those two, whether it's causation or correlation, they're very closely tied in. Any young man who chases women is doing himself a disservice.
We would say the word now, the polite word is simp. They call it simp, right?
Correct, bro.
All right. Should I say the language we use in Perth?
Of course.
Bros, that's weak cunt shit. That's what we say, So we're coming from a group where the focus is you're at war, not because you want to be at war, because you're in that street, and if you live in a different street to us, well, whether you want to be peaceful or not, we're still kicking your head in. I mean, that's how it is, depending on the vest you wear, the bike you ride, whatever. Not that I was ever in any bike clubs. I'm just saying, if you're in Perth and you go on a certain fight gyms, you're going to be mixing in it, whether you like it or not. And so because you have that focus where you always need to be on your toes, you're with your brothers. You're hanging out so much more than with chicks.
That's the masculine frame living. That's how we're meant to be, rolling around as tribes of brothers. Yep.
Yeah. Like to your point the other day, you were like, what do you think about this gang stuff? It's gay. I was like, okay, I don't promote that, but I can understand why they do it. There's that camaraderie. It's like veterans that go to war, they come back, they hang out with normal people and they're like, I can't connect with this guy. Do you know what I mean? Like this guy hasn't spilt any blood with me. It's different. And there's even names for that. There's hormones for that. I spoke about it the other day. That's vasopressin, and oxytocin is the bonding. If you don't have that, you're not clicking with boys. Whereas now, all we can do is create these alliances based on shared history. That's why I like talking to veterans, you know. I know they're about it. Do you know what I mean? Something that kicks off here. I already know. And it's not that there's going to be any violence in the UAE. And I don't want to recreate a war setting. What I'm saying is I cannot connect with the guys that are just constantly complaining. They have this tendency to complain. They don't realize they're doing it. I'm like, bro, you realize that you made your day about you. Oh, I'm having this problem and that problem. And it's not attractive.
It's also very much a negative female trait.
Yeah.
Solipsism, the self-centered focus, the complaining about something instead of going out and building it and fixing it. And that's why I think it might be hard for men nowadays to find good women, because they've become bad women themselves.
Yeah.
I see so many negative female traits in modern men. It's like, bro, you're not even a bad man. You're not even a man. Like it's a real thing. And I can't connect with that. I can't be around that either. The amount of people who just, men, specifically young men, write to me saying, hey, I need to jump on a call. Hey, let's do a podcast. Hey, I don't know you. I have families, businesses. I have real things to do. And you expect me to give you your time. As if you're some young, hot little girl who thinks the world revolves around her. It's modern men nowadays. Man, I have a rule I follow. If someone's under 30, I assume they are basically a man, right? I assume that they are basically a female dressed in a man's body until proven otherwise. They're spoilt, they're entitled, they're lazy. They're all the negative, stereotypical traits of a woman in a man's body. It's a real thing. I'm continually reminded of how weak men are nowadays. To your point, how are you going to be around that? How are you going to connect with that?
It's tough, man. I mean, I grew up as a silver spoon-fed kid. Applecross, Cardinia. I didn't come from tough neighborhoods. But because there was no gyms at the time, you had to go to Next Gen in Spearwood. And Spearwoods were all the hard lads kicked around because there was boxing. So I got unintentionally brought there because my mum would drop me off to go to the gym. But I'm grateful of that. I'm actually grateful of that upbringing. If I had grown up with those Applecross boys in art class, who I would have become.
Oof.
Oh, bro.
Different.
So yeah, when people go, do you regret your past? No. Like I'm glad I went through that. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I'm glad I went through it.
Yeah. You had a tough childhood as well. You had a rough past.
It was messy. The state was involved. I was taken out of my primary home numerous times. It was a mess, definitely. Yeah.
And that home was no mansion.
Yeah.
You shared a photo on Instagram.
There wasn't much means growing up, bro. That was for sure. Money troubles were constant, and stress and everything. But I'm grateful for it. Look, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I'd like to think I've worked through any of the issues that came from it. But man, there's something to be said for being born poor and then not being poor anymore. I can just sit, do nothing, and feel an abundance of gratitude because my life is so different to where it was. And I'm glad I didn't get anything quick or easy, because those little wins over time, that's where the fulfillment comes from. Those little steps over time. I mean, you got big, hard, money-wise. What followed? Hedonism and some years where perhaps they weren't actually helpful for you. That's the rule, man. I see everyone who, whether they sell a business or they get a crypto pump or they inherit a bunch of cash or something happens fast, I see a lot of the time, I don't think human nature can handle it that well. Same with fame. I see people who get famous quickly, it kind of wrecks them. But if you have those little steps up over time, I think it's easier for the mind to process, and it's easier to translate that into a genuine fulfillment. Would you agree with that, brother?
100%. Bro, I went through it. When that first bull run hit, I mean,
what are we talking figures-wise, bro? What was your gain?
We cut it out.
I mean, I think it's part of your story, bro.
You said it on the podcast.
Yeah, I did. So like,
what's your net worth?
When we're talking about net worth, who said it? I think it might have been Tate. You got to be careful. You're quoting Tate non-stop, even if you don't mean to. He said everything. You know what I mean? He said everything, bro. But if you know your net worth, you're truly
Let's talk about your
well.
win, your first big jump.
2017.
Okay, and what you went from 0 to how much, or what was the?
Not 0. So don't get me wrong. I was always working and studying small, medium enterprises, economics, macroeconomics. I'm a nerd like that.
Yeah,
Being financially literate is sort of a thing you can hold yourself to in my family. And if you're not considered a man.
Okay,
You
awesome.
know,
I like that.
my dad is not someone that is broke. In that community, they're wealthy. They're not very wealthy, but in that kind of middle class, he's upper middle class.
He's Australia rich.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Not East Sydney rich, like Perth rich.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Well, we compare it to Dubai rich.
It's nothing close to Dubai rich.
Dubai rich is another level of rich.
Different game, mate.
But
Different game. Yeah.
put it this way, if I wanted to spend 50K a month for the rest of my life, no problem. It'll be there. Now that only just scrapes the surface here for me. I mean, I definitely need more. We spoke about that median line. For me, I'm not talking about supercars, bro. Like I've done all that. They're uncomfortable. Like if I'm driving a Ferrari, I'm getting a coach going to a track.
Yeah, 100%.
Learn the sport.
I take my van to the drift track and smash my drift car.
Saw that.
That's the only way to do it, bro.
Yeah, that's
driving,
mad.
mate. That's driving.
Yeah.
Track days are nothing now.
Bro, I'm taking tips from that. When I get like an SF90 or something around here, I'll go to the track, get a coach when I have time. Otherwise, I'm in the G-Wagon, not because of the flex of the G-Wagon. I'll explain why. The aircon's the best in them, and they're super comfortable. Anyway.
Wait till you get into the van life, bro. You'll never drive. It's the real
He was saying,
Telling them.
but I love driving.
He loves driving.
Even in this city?
That's why I picked him up.
Yeah.
I love it.
He loves driving.
Okay, cool.
I have a thoughts when I'm
Empty-
driving.
empty-
Yeah, well, fair enough. Yeah.
Those reels that built whatever social media I have,
True.
I'm just driving with my missus to coffee. That's
I
it.
like that. Yeah, okay, nice, bro. I like it.
Something about the wheels turning.
It's
What
healthy.
was your first? I mean, you've been trained. By the way, you're the real deal.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people talk shit. You're the real deal. You have been trained, first of all, to kill people very easily, right? We actually had this thing in Thailand where we were talking about who would kill anyone, and then he was very quiet, and everyone was like, "Oh, I think this guy would." If everyone got into a one-on-one fight, and then he just comes out of the shadows. I said to him, "What about you? What do you think, Joule?" He goes, "What are we doing here, guys? Are we killing each other? What if you kill each other? It's no competition. I was trained by this organization. That I'd go straight for here and there for there and the next person. Like
Love
brutal
that.
stuff. Brutal stuff.
I love that.
It was a job for a while, man. That's all it is. And whenever, like, there's doing something as a hobby, like, okay, let's say you're training MMA. If you're doing that as a hobby versus if you're a guy from Dagestan who's got nothing else other than fight training to get by, who's going to put more effort in and who's going to have more resources? Like, it was my job for a while.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I don't think it's a flex. It's not something I even talk to. But yeah, man, that was my life.
Like he knows biologically. Well, usually us soldiers walk around with a small blade. You go here, over there is that nerve, blah, 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 blah. Like next person, 7 seconds, I can kill someone. Like bang, next person. Like
Long time ago, bro. Long time ago. Now I just live in Dubai and I don't worry about these things.
That is a teddy bear.
Remember, you're famous, bro. So I'm like watching all your stuff, learning about you.
really?
Even before I thought I'd even meet you, you just would come up on the feed. I
Interesting.
mean, your organic marketing is everywhere for our demographic.
I
Bro.
get a lot of engagement, like my stories, man. What I found really interesting on that. So everyone on Instagram is faking. So I realized everyone's got fake. Like
Especially you.
my stories. So there's a witness. We got 46K views stories. That's a low story day. My stories will go up to 100, 120K views. To me, that's a lot of engagement.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, then that's why I speak about faith a lot, because I think it's my duty to have a positive impact on humanity, and it's to speak about traditional values and aspiring to be a good father, a good husband, all these sorts of things. I've never really cared about social media. I've never really I got a massive lift up from being around the Tates. It was actually Tristan who said to me, "You need to start posting more on Instagram," because I had when I met the Tates, I had maybe 4 or 5 posts on Instagram. He said, "You're living in a way that's interesting and impressive. Cool. You need to put it out there." I'm like, "I'm not sure if I want to." And it was something that the Tate brothers said, "You are building a portfolio of real estate in the virtual space by building a following." I was like, "Now that makes sense. I like building property portfolios. Let's build in the virtual space in terms of a public brand, a personal brand." But bro, to this day, I haven't really taken it seriously because I don't like people who are influencers. I don't like these dancing clowns trying to get as much information, as much attention as they can. It's not who I am. I'm never gonna jump around on a Lambo and say, "Hey, look at me and look at my watch." Like I don't like that demographic. So I'm still a bit at odds with social media, to be honest. But it's interesting to hear that I pop up organically.
And that's why you pop, because you can see it's authentic. Like I know straight away, I'm like, yeah, he's about it, 100%.
Interesting. Yeah.
You're not that influencer that dances on TikTok. You're carving a new road of being like an influencer for.
Can you imagine me trying to dance for TikTok? That would be terrible.
Even Amadeus would be like, "What are you doing, Dad?"
No, this ain't right, Dad. Shut it down. Shut it down.
So go on to my question. You're trained to read body language. You're trained to read people. What was your thoughts when you first seen Daniel? Because in Australia, they judge him because of his tattoos.
Okay.
But he's very surprised that he feels less judged here because of his tattoos.
Definitely. So look, I think everyone wants to be good at body language and good at reading people, good at detecting lies. I was actually trained by the Australian government, and when I was working within the intelligence world in various capacities, we had some of the best psychologists in Australia who would come in and would give us essentially informal lectures, who would help us with profiling, who would help us with the various component parts of human intelligence, which is essentially recruiting people to do what you want for yourself and the government, all these sorts of things. So I was privileged to spend a lot of time around some of the best minds in the world when it comes to actually at a professional level analyzing people. What I found is there's a real correlation with the approach used to that of very high-level Emiratis. The Emiratis here, the high-level Emiratis, are incredibly good at reading people. And then they don't necessarily just go with the words spoken, they go with the way someone carries themselves. They go with someone's composure. They like to see, and the way they conceptualize it is what's happening in your heart. Do you have, for example, in terms of Islam, do you have a heart that's soft towards Islam, open towards Islam? And so there's almost, sometimes it borderlines on somewhat, I don't want to say esoteric, but there's such depth to that a lot of the Emiratis that I've interacted with, they're so good at reading people, it goes beyond a science in towards almost a sense.
So they can feel your intent.
Yeah, definitely. And within Islam, it's called niyyah. And that relates to pretty much everything. You can make money with the niyyah to do good, and then you'll have blessings. You can make money with the niyyah to, I'm going to screw over everybody just to get that money, then your life will be worse off even though you got more money. Within Islam, that niyyah is very important. So the point I'm getting to, I read your niyyah very quickly as a truth seeker with a bunch of experience, perhaps a bunch of trauma, who's gone through the negative, hard parts of your life, and you're ready for ease and for truth and for connection with God. That was very clear to me. It was clear to me very early that your intent was such that you're big, you're wealthy, you're strong, you're dangerous, but you've moved past that, and you're looking for what's next. And I'd like to think in a certain way that's the path I've gone as well. Gotten over trying to be the big tough guy who's going to punch anyone's teeth in, and now wants to enjoy the life that you've built, to learn more about faith and to do good, to give back. So I saw very much a similarity in your niyyah, in what's going on in your heart in terms of how you approach each day, and myself. And so immediately I was like, I want to talk to you more. The tattoos have got nothing to do with it, bro. Wow. In this part of the world, people assess you a lot more deeply than just your surface level looks. It's a cultural thing, and I believe it's also a religious thing as well.
What a compliment.
Thank you. I mean, I should say thanks,
it wasn't
right?
meant, it wasn't meant to be a compliment. I'm just answering the question, but yeah.
Bro, it's very flattering, because there's very few people I watch on social media, but it just so happened to be Joule was one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not a big social media guy. I just got it back, a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
But your stuff I would watch, I don't know how it popped up on the feed. Out of all the things that Instagram could have shown me, maybe the algorithm knew me. It's scary like that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you summarized me pretty well. I don't know, I don't know what I've said in this podcast, but I don't know if I've ever tried to be the tough guy, because my bros back home would be watching and they know who's tough around from where we're from. It's never been me. Was all about just making money.
But also very much combat ready though, bro. To this day, you're maintaining a combat ready physique.
Oh, I can knuckle street-wise, but, Quillen, Cody, Alex, that's two people in the UFC. Alex is WBC heavyweight kickboxing champion of the world. I'm talking about some of the best fighters in the world. 4 of them are from Perth right now.
I'm comparing you to the general population, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Fighters.
Oh, there's no dramas there whatsoever.
That's my point, yeah.
But you'd still probably kill both of us.
100%.
No, I wouldn't, bro. No, I'd dissolve the tensions before it even got to that.
Yeah,
and
of course.
If you were someone who was looking to kidnap me or rob me, I'd see you in the preparation phases, because as per the hostile threat attack cycle, there's prep work before any sort of major planned, kinetic act carries out. Before kidnapping, there's a bunch of surveillance and prep. Before even someone wants to break into your house, they're going to do surveillance and prep. If you're switched on enough and you have your life and your infrastructure set up, you will smell that coming a mile away.
Yeah.
My man, 20 years ago, I was trained when walking down the street At 100 meters, this is what you look for in terms of a threat. At 50 meters, this is what you look for. At 5 meters, this is what you look for. And I was practicing that 20 years ago as the norm. I don't need to kill anyone or do anything drastic because I will see it coming a mile away. That's the superior way to live, man. There's no nobility in getting into some situation where you have to draw and shoot somebody. If you were professional enough, you would have seen it coming and taken evasive action a long time ago, or planned out your routes, or planned out your day, or planned out your travels, so you're not even in those positions in any way.
That's so well said. He basically said what I wanted to say, but better. Because the reason I avoid this conflict is why I left Perth. I mean, that's gang violence culture, so I left.
Risk avoidance, number one. Don't be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Your secondary primary mitigation measure when it comes to personal security is that of situational awareness. Whenever I'm going out with my industry brothers, people with the same background as me, we will always fight for who gets the best position in the room in a restaurant. And often, instead of one sitting with the back to the wall, one sitting with the back out there, we'll sit next to each other and we'll both look out instead of trying to wrestle who gets what. If you make that your norm, regardless of where you are in the world, if the second you walk into a room, you're scanning to see who you need to watch out for, you understand the primary exit's there, the secondary exit is probably out through the kitchen that way. What's cover versus what's concealment? If things kick off, something like this, you don't want to get behind this. Rounds will go straight through it. Whereas when we look at the various concrete pillars or that bar that's made of marble, that's something that's actual cover. That's where you get behind if things kick off. If you're the sort of person who does that assessment for every room always, regardless of where you are, if you understand that the times you're most open and vulnerable to someone hitting you is when you are leaving your house or entering your office or leaving your gym or entering the members club you go to regularly. Anywhere, anything within your daily routine which is regular and timed consistently is when you're vulnerable. If you understand these things and you amp up your situational awareness, to this day, the moment I leave my house, I'm a lot more aware, even in Dubai, than I would be just walking between different rooms within this already secure members club. If you have that as part of your nature, you don't have to kill anyone. You don't have to punch anyone. It's a real thing. And also, I've found too, when you get to a certain level of proficiency when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, and for me, years of my life was spent within the military, really sharpening if the primary weapon doesn't work, your secondary doesn't work, and your blade doesn't work, all right, we've got to go to hands, which is an unusual situation, but still almost fetishizing that, making that my identity. The hand-to-hand stuff was my identity. If you get to that level of capability, not just to fight, but to significantly injure and or kill someone first, certain lines crossed, I'm going to act with aggression, controlled aggression, and resolve the threat before they've even made a move to hurt me. When you get to that level of capability, people don't want it, bro. No one wants to fight you. Unless they're drunk or high, in which case most of the time they're easy to deal with anyway. But when you develop a certain capability with hand-to-hand combat, not sparring, not scoring, but like an example here, why would I ever hit you? I have this. And even walking down the street, you see me in public, I have this in my hand. I'm not going to hit someone. I'm going to put this right into their neck before they even think to do anything. Like, if you have that mindset, I think on an animal level, people just don't want to start fights. I got to a certain point within the military where I would have been, I'd say maybe 21, and my life was that hand-to-hand stuff, which isn't the case. A lot of soldiers don't really get into it the way I got into it. I just didn't get in fights anymore. It just didn't happen, ever. And I was in situations where I was about to go down, and I'd step up, to the grip, sort of, and all of a sudden it would just dissolve. I'm like, oh, cool. So I think on an animal level, it does make sense to train to a level of preparedness for violence such that the violence just doesn't happen anymore. I think it's a useful thing to have. Not that I maintain that anymore. Man, I wouldn't. Would I have the conditioning to get into a serious street fight with multiple opponents? Probably not. So I'll just get nastier. I'll just pick up a knife off the table and put that in someone's throat. Like, I'm not walking around as a fighter anymore. I'm just a dude with grainiest beard who's nastier than you are. And that's enough for me, bro. That's fine.
That's the way to do it. That's the mentality. Never been taught like that boxing was going to be that effective in the street anyway, bro. You're looking for a weapon.
100%, immediately. I mean, ideally get out of there, and if not, improvise weapons. Yeah, easy.
There's 5 people in this room.
Okay.
We all turn on you. How are you getting out? What's the first
There's an exit right there, man.
Is there an exit right there?
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things you learn when it comes to genuine training for street situations or training for combat when all of your weapon systems aren't working is improvised weapons, and also getting people's bodies in front of other bodies so you can get out. A lot of it's, you're not training to smash someone, you're training to get enough space so you can get out. And so that's why I take some issue with people thinking jiu-jitsu is somehow useful for the street. Brother, the second you go down, you are getting jumped on. One of the planning assumptions you work with when it comes to the military unarmed combat is there's always someone else. So you'd never go on the ground. Your drills is as soon as you can, you get that person off you, you get up, and you're looking for his mate who's coming to stomp you on the head. Like everything is about getting out of there. There's no tough guy stuff when it comes to genuine unarmed combat. You do what you need to do with efficiency and with maximum damage, and then you run away. There's no honor or point scoring when you're talking about actual violence. You want to run away like a scared little girl. That's what professionals do.
Wow.
They don't stay there and who's next.
It's not an ego sport.
No. Get some space, do some damage, get out of there.
Get out of there.
That's how the professionals operate.
Wow.
That's so well said.
Wow.
I mean, bro, you got so many of these egomaniacs, like you said, they just love a punch on, but he knows the feeling. I'm not going to talk about my personal experience, but if a bullet flies past you very closely, you speak to these people, it changes their lives in a different way, because they know, like, it's over. When you're knuckling with someone on the street, but like, you're not going to die. Do you know what I mean? This is a very different ball game. So the more you have, the more you acquire children, which I really think you should have. You're going to want to avoid dramas, even though you do anyway. But I find the boys that love conflict, they love the conflict, are the boys that they haven't got a lot going for them. So maybe their businesses suck, or they don't have one, and they don't have children. But anyone I've met who's come from that life, once they build enough, they don't want to lose it, and they're on this defense rather than attack. That's what I've learned anyway.
I'll put that.
Hitler.
Oh, okay. All right. Good one, though, because I watched a lot on him.
I love history. And for somebody to be able to mass influence that many people, that is truly something to be spoken about, something to be learnt about. How he was able to blindly lead people to kill people.
Almost bring on mass hysteria that overcame natural human morals.
Yeah. How is that still possible? And why was civilization so different then for it to be influenced? And can civilization still be influenced like that?
There are studies done to this day that show you can override people's natural morals with authority. You might know the study I'm referring to.
I know the one.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, so it does exist. And I think that's the danger of humans. I think we are fundamentally designed to be led. If we think about, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I've gone down numerous rabbit holes when it comes to human history and sociology. The ideal size, or the natural size of tribe for us to live in, 150, 200 people. Now, within that group, how many alphas do you think there can be? Not that many, because they'll kill each other. You've got the primary alpha, you've got the young up-and-comers, and at a certain point, the young up-and-comers, one of them will kill the primary, and then he's the boss, and he gets all the pretty ladies, and he's in charge, and all these sorts of things, to simplify matters. But what does that mean? It means the vast majority, percentage-wise, of men are designed to be followers. We're designed to be sheep in order to survive. It's a survival instinct, deep brain stuff. And the downside of that in the modern context is people are easily programmable. That's how you had the mass hysteria around the pandemic, if it was even a pandemic. People literally losing their minds, governments losing their minds. Melbourne was locked down for 9 months. Education messed up, small businesses ruined. Dan Andrews was voted back in the big majority voted him back in after that, when you had countries like Sweden who never really locked down at all. But people can be programmed predominantly through fear, through culture, all these sorts of things. I think we are as a species very, very prone to being programmed. I mean, the example of what Hitler did in terms of, mass mobilization of people through emotions and fear and all these sorts of things is an example. I think we are just as vulnerable as a species nowadays. In the majority, of course, there's exceptions to the rule, but exceptions to the rule don't negate the rule. We are sheep as humans. We are on a survival level programmable. And human history has shown that we needed that in order to survive in the tribal sense.
So could something like that happen again?
100%.
For sure, bro.
100%.
Easily. Serious?
Wow.
And you could say, oh, yes, but social media, self-generated content, different narratives can form, sure. But unfortunately, these things which could have been a mass enlightenment tool have become a mass programming tool. Like, really, this is, I mean, we've all done this before, right? Why did Adam and Eve get kicked out of the Garden of Eden? Because Eve was whispered to by the serpent, the devil, the evil forces, hey, you should eat that apple, that temptation, you should take it. So the women who are invariably more open to temptation than men. They're more susceptible to being led than men in the traditional sense. They took a bite of that apple and then they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And on the back of every one of these phones, what do we see? We see a half-eaten apple, right?
Fuck.
Look at that.
Fuck.
I didn't think of that.
Gonna have to beat that out, man. So these
How's
things here,
that?
this is the serpent, this is the evil forces whispering in people's ears, saying, hey, look, I know you've got certain conditions that God set for you to live well, but hey, there's temptation here. Hey, there, you know, just have a little bite out of this. And boof, humanity's kicked out of the Garden of Eden.
So is the devil winning the war?
100%. Look at the state of humanity. Shaitan is strong right now. Shaitan's on easy mode. These devices have made it so easy to spread demonic, devilish messaging to the masses, even to the minds of the youth. That's why I'm so particular about my kids having access to any sort of social media, even Netflix. All these, the agenda's so clear. I think more than ever, Shaitan, the devil, has a grip on the human mind collectively, more than ever before. However, there is something balancing it out. And that, alhamdulillah, that is Islam. And we see it growing, we see it rising. I mean, the amount of people have messaged me and said, hey man, thanks to you I reverted to Islam. What a blessing to see that humanity actually has hope to fight back against the grip that Shaitan has over the minds, especially of people in the West.
Yeah, bro, this is a minorities podcast. Do you know how many people back in Australia will be listening to some of this stuff going like, can't believe they're talking like that.
Misogynist.
There'll be heaps of that. It's a guarantee. But, I've learned no matter what you post, someone will attack it anyway. So it doesn't matter, just post it. But, bro, with Hitler, I'll touch on that, if I may.
Please touch on that.
Okay.
You got to study great rulers, bro, bad or good. You have to. There's a lot to take from it. Now, there was a guy, I'm not going to name his name, he was in Perth, and he was, we'll call him the top G of the city then, if you will. And he had studied rulers, I know, because he told me. And this guy was really smart. Not a good man, terrible man, but really smart. And he understood how Hitler, spread propaganda, that's the word. What they did, bro, what Hitler did, he would find out truths about a person or a group of people, lots of truths, and convince everyone. And it's right, they checked the evidence, yeah, it's true. Once he got the trust, then he'd spread one complete lie. But they've already built the trust. Of course, it must be true. He says all this truth before, and boom, that's how he gets them. And that's what this guy did in Perth. That's how he robbed people non-stop. He would rob people close to him. He'd go like, look, mate, he's such a good lad, but I can't say, but, he slipped. We're going to have to take him. That's what he would do. That's how they build propaganda. 99% truth, then that 1% lie, boom. That's what Hitler did. He did the Jews. He threw on the Jews. Because he was an intelligent man. The way he speaks, he understood crowds. Crowds don't like nuance. So nerds will come on here, like scientists, and they'll be like, well, yes, that can happen, but if this, but if that exception, and no one wants to listen to them. No one wants to listen to nerds, which is why Islam is communicating better than scientific rigor. As rational as the scientific method is, and as similar as Islam actually is to the scientific method, no one wants to hear them, bro.
The
They want to listen to
credibility
you.
of the source, credibility of the delivery. Yeah, it's just not there with the academic types.
Yep.
You just recently hit 500,000 followers on Instagram.
Don't call me an influencer, bro. Don't do it.
Congratulations, my favorite influencer.
There it is.
My favorite influencer that doesn't dance.
That doesn't dance for TikTok.
That doesn't dance TikTok. Is there a parade? Is there an award? Does anything happen?
It's monopoly money, mate.
Does something happen? What happens? Did you feel good? How did you feel?
If anything, I feel that the whole thing's a bit strange because my career, I was the guy avoiding the camera. And at certain points in my career, that was necessary. And if I didn't avoid the camera, then something went wrong. If people were able to Google my name, then something went very, very wrong. So it's also something I'm getting used to. I think overall, I believe social media is a net negative for humanity. I think it's the way Shaitan spreads his messages and affects the youth in negative ways. However, I'm grateful for the platform and the reach because I think it is an opportunity for me to, even if it's a little bit, pull things in the other direction, away from all the Shaitan messaging to offset all this ridiculous false news you see about Islam, the ridiculous attacks you see on traditional values. And I like to think that my message inspires men predominantly to be better at being men, which then has a positive impact on people's lives and then, overall is a worthwhile thing. Do I have any aspiration to be famous? No. Do I Want clout? No, don't care. I like the ability to send traffic towards my brother's businesses. I like the ability to send traffic towards my businesses because I believe in them, because they're fun, and I believe we do good work in the various businesses that I speak about publicly. But I think it's a weird one. Fame's a weird one, man. Like, there's downsides to having a personal brand as well. I get a lot of people saying negative things. I've had people come to my house. I've had people make threats against my family. So I don't think it's for everyone. And it wouldn't be for me if it was about personal gain. I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be worthwhile. But because I believe I'm having a positive impact, and I'm told regularly that I'm encouraging people to look into Islam or to make improvements in their life in terms of self-discipline and so on. I do view it as a positive overall.
You are very well known, especially when I went to Australia and I came back. I said to you, "You're more famous than you think in Australia," because people come up to me asking me what you're like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bro.
It's a weird idea of even being famous, man. I'm not interested in that at all. I like the idea of impacting people in a positive way, because even on a selfish level, I know that the barakah, the blessings, then come back to me. It's not altruistic. I'm not doing it because, oh, yay, kumbaya. I know that if I can put out content which leads to people becoming better humans, finding faith, taking their responsibilities more seriously as a man, that's a meaningful thing. So that's my intent. Should I bring in more of a strategy? Should I try harder? I'm not sure, man. I think part of the reason why, because I hit about 10 million accounts a month, part of the reason that happens is because I'm authentic and I'm not really selling anything. Yeah, I have some businesses, but they're not big profit makers. They're just fun. I think that authenticity is what's running now. No one wants fancy edited videos anymore. No one really wants overly scripted, posy stuff. They want authenticity. They want value add to their lives. And I think I happen to tick a few of those boxes. So it's growing. I
obviously podcast in Dubai and I meet a lot of influencers that you know. But without naming names, a lot of people that I speak to, a lot of the influencers, I always say to them, like, what's the end goal to this? And they're like, obviously Hollywood. I'm like, Hollywood? Is that what you're thinking? And I'm talking 6 people that's like, obviously Hollywood. I was like, why is everyone saying this, right?
That's just sheep stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me go and join the satanic propaganda machine that pushes war and pushes
shit movies.
Yeah. Modern day movies suck, man. Oh my goodness. They're propaganda tools.
worst.
They're not about entertainment anymore.
They're
like
so shit, bro.
Yeah.
I saw one the other day. Even one of my bros sent it to me. He's like, have a look at this one. And as soon as I see a chick like doing karate and sucking
beating
dudes
up 10 men, yeah.
I'm like, bro, like, this will never happen.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason why I think in the West there's so much entitlement and ego, because women are told, as a 50-kilogram woman, you can go and beat up 10, 100-kilogram men with ease.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing? What messaging are we sending? It's bizarre.
You know what Masvidal said? Sorry to cut you off,
Please,
bro.
brother.
Just when you started talking about combat sports, I had to butt in. Jorge Masvidal. There was that chick, forgot her name actually, because I don't watch the chick fights in the UFC. But he was honest. He's like, she used to train at the gym, the best chick fighter in the world. She can't beat the lowest ranking male at the gym who's lighter than her.
Wow.
It's just the way things are,
We
bro.
have
It's
denser
biology.
bones, man. Like, it's
Yeah. And sometimes you got to let them know.
verbally. Now, my whole thing on social media is, again, it comes down to intent. Niyyah, as we see talking about in Islam. What is your intent? What is your approach? What are you trying to achieve? And I think I choose to believe that the world is moving away from dancing clowns with their rented Lambos, trying to push some crypto, whatever, towards, all right, who's really made it in life? Who's authentic? Who's got actual value to bring and insights to bring? I like seeing people like Alex Hormozi blow up. I like seeing people who give proven authority on something. Like Alex Hormozi talks about fitness and business and relationships, and he's done all of those things well. He has receipts. When we see our brother Tate talk about hustle, about bringing yourself from poverty up to doing well, he's done it. I think I have to believe the world is wanting to see more authority than a watch and a car. What's your track record? What have you achieved? They're the sort of people to listen to.
Yeah. Now that you've fallen into having influence, 10 million eyeballs look at you. Well, 20 million really is 2 eyes, but 10 million people watch you every month. Now that you've fallen into the influence, into being influential without wanting to, how are you diverting that? Where are you diverting that traffic to now? Because that's seriously something you need to think about.
Yeah, I'm diverting it. I'm using my, say, 10 million accounts reached a month to push that which brings me the most benefit on a personal level, and that's towards Islam. It's not money, it's not business, it's not more clout. If my platform can push more people to consider Islam, I'm never going to preach, I'm never going to try and force on someone, just have an objective look at the value that Islam will bring to your life on a selfish level, and by default then to your family, to your community, to your businesses and so on. If I can drive people towards considering Islam in an open, logical manner, without all this negative propaganda that's programmed into people, that brings me more benefit than, and by extension, my family and my people, than pushing any sort of product or pushing it to any company or trying to grow following or anything. So that's my primary focus, to be honest, bro.
You know, Islam to a white Westerner is very intimidating. They don't know where to start. The book is Arabic. I just thought of something. Why don't you create like a course, okay?
I don't know enough, bro.
And then-
like I'm still learning every day, man.
I know, but we all are. And also, you already know a lot. I feel like you should make a course where you can give bite-sized things about Islam in English, because then you're creating a bridge
But
between.
isn't that what I'm doing with my
Yeah,
reels?
I was about to say,
I
you're
don't-
already
I don't-
doing that.
I don't want to charge people. As soon as I start charging people for a course or something, to me, it loses that authenticity. I speak to the benefits of Islam because I believe in it, not because I'm trying to profit from it. Now, I do profit in terms of barakah and blessings. Man, I get so many blessings from the messages I put out about Islam. It's undeniable. My life is one series of, oh, that just worked out, after another. It didn't used to be like that, man. Really, like in terms of health stuff, in relationships, in finding good brothers effortlessly. Bro, you're someone who I consider to be the sort of brother who I respect and want to have around me. It's hard to find good brothers. We just ran into each other. You know, all these coincidences that make my life better. I didn't used to be Mr. Lucky, even though I don't believe in luck anymore. Now, thanks to the message I'm putting out predominantly about Islam, I clearly, with full confidence, believe that there are blessings coming back to me every day. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, you do it already on your social media, but if you actually sit there every day, like 3 videos a day.
I probably should try more. You're right, bro.
That would be a perfect bridge. And I know a lot of people from the Western world that you would be creating a bridge for to go from that and find Islam.
I hear you, man. And there is a debate that goes on in my head regularly. Should I take social media more seriously? Because most of the time I do content because my content guy says, hey, we need a reel today. Like there's no strategy, there's no planning.
That's working though, bro. That's how you're reaching, bro. You're number 1 in this quest. There's no number 2.
Sure.
Interesting.
There's who else?
That's a good point.
That's it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah.
So I think I'll continue sort of half doing it, but alhamdulillah, the half doing it approach, it's working. You know.
Yeah.
At some point, I might put more focused effort into it when it gets to a certain level where I'd be disrespectful not to. You know what I mean? If I get to like 1 million or something, all right, I probably need to take it more seriously at that point. But at this point, it's just fun, and it's just I like to think it's bringing a positive impact, and man, it's satisfying. It's enjoyable. I get so much positive feedback. It's a real blessing.
I want to ask you the same question about social media presence.
Okay.
Because you're new to social media, but really social media, well, I wouldn't even say social media, but I'd say Dubai and the UAE is really embracing you. They've embraced you so well.
You'll be huge in a year if you keep this up, bro. You're going to absolutely skyrocket.
Yeah.
It's very clear.
And they've embraced you so well.
They have.
So how important is having a social media presence for you? I mean, you're only 5 weeks in.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to answer that. So I've got social media for my companies, so I understand the value of it. But building a personal brand was never something I wanted to do because it's that cultural pressure from back home. This is how our crew sees when you post your thoughts online. Weak, and you're putting yourself out there unnecessarily.
Attention seeking, yeah.
Unnecessarily. So to post a selfie like that, you won't find that on my social media, bro. Even still, like I'm having to wrestle with it.
I can't take the selfie taker seriously, bro. I can't.
Nah.
As soon as I see a man doing these ones, pushing his lips up, it's like, bro, what are you going to go get a BBL now as well?
Yeah, no, none of that. You know, so
Maybe his boyfriend said it was a good idea.
so that's why. But then, bro, we're going to get to Bitcoin, not crypto, in a second. That's going to be my plug for the podcast because I'm going to try and convince Joule what I'm at in a minute. Anyway, because I'm at a point now, if I want to take my lifestyle to the next tier, a personal brand is part of that. And I'm not talking about just financially. I'm talking about that fulfillment. I feel like everyone that has social media that posts a quote or reposts a quote, they're trying to connect with people, it's like this innate thing humans have to want to like change people's beliefs for their good. And I just can't get away from that because I've done this so many times where I'll get social media, say something, delete, say something, delete. And this time I was like, I'm going to do this experiment for 2 weeks. I'm going to post 3 reels a day. Doesn't matter what. And I almost deleted them every night. And then one viral just went boom. One reel went viral, like a 1.6 million views. And then I just got all these inboxes from people. It was crazy. It's still crazy from that one reel. And the reason I did that is because at my shop, I had one viral reel and that basically made my business. No paid ad could come close to it. So I realized personal brand was something I'm going to have to do. It's not an option. Do you see what I'm saying? But this time I want the message to be correct because as much as hate's going to come, I don't want to be the sort of guy to put something out there and look back and be like, why did I say that? You know, because you're constantly changing, you're regretting, or at least like you wish you didn't say certain things. So I'm pretty happy with it so far, you know, like it's okay. Everything I'm posting, like I'm cool with it.
Can I suggest you pin the reel that went viral, brother? Because that's part of your brand here, and also because I can't find it. I'd love to see which one it was. It's a real thing in that if you're looking to establish yourself in a city and present who you are as a person, like I've met a bunch of people and they've automatically just said, hey, look, I like what you stand for. I've built that rapport already. We don't have to feel each other out. I've said who I am clearly. They've seen it. They've said, hey, I like that. Bang. You already got a sense of connection and rapport and brotherhood. So I think it's useful in that way. Commercially, super useful. I gave a shout out a year ago to a friend of mine with a supplement company. Crashed his website. He had more demands and more order than wow. Because it's quite a high, quite an engaged followership than he'd ever had. And so I see the commercial benefit of it definitely. And you can't buy that. Paid ads don't get engagement. No. As soon as people see a paid ad, they're like, yeah, whatever. So I see the commercial value in it. But I think when you're not so much driven by money anymore, that social capital of being not just known in a city, but also someone that people respect, I think that's quite meaningful, quite worthwhile.
And then ironically, the money comes even more.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. But I keep going with what you're doing, man. It's really going to work.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
And what you said there, that consistency, just posting. There was a moment where I took Instagram a little bit seriously. I was with Dan Bilzerian, you know, the king of Instagram, on a private island with some very, very senior royals being hosted, you know, in Abu Dhabi. So leadership level guys. And the grandsons of the individual who owned the island were more excited to talk to me than the king of Instagram. I'm like, this is weird. What's happening? And they wanted photos with me. I'm like, who am I next to Dan Bilzerian? This a few months ago. And they said, oh, when you said this reel, it made me think differently when you said that. You know, and it wasn't necessarily even, you know, Islamic based. It was just, you know, life based. I was like, hang on. If the grandsons of someone who's that senior are getting benefit from my content, I need to take this a bit more seriously. So I just started trying to post every day. I was 250K. 4 months later, I've doubled that. I've literally doubled in a matter of months, less than 6 months, just by posting regularly. Because you don't know what's going to go viral. You don't know what's going to hit. I've had reels where I thought, and I actually said to my media guy, is this even worth posting? He's like, just do it. 3 million, 4 million, like it just pops. So
you don't know.
The consistency thing is huge. Authenticity, consistency in posting, and be an interesting enough human to create interesting, insightful content. Now, the back end work to become that interesting human is the hard part. Yeah. Creating the content is actually quite easy.
Correct.
But I think anyone who's got a bit of grey in their beard, or a lot, in my example, they're the sort of people who should be producing content, not these kids who are in their early 20s who've decided because they opened a social media marketing agency, they now know life. Man, what? Shut up. You know, what do you know about life? Yeah. So I really do think guys like us who've been around a bit, we should be producing content more regularly because we'll get a massive reach as well. The people who are producing content typically are kids. You know, guys in their teens and early 20s. And because they produce all the time, they're massive. Doesn't mean they have any value to bring to humanity. I think there's a responsibility for people like us who've learned a thing or two to put our message out there. Because back in the day, who did you listen to? You listened to the tribal elders. You listened to the guys who'd been through it. You didn't listen to some 18-year-old who's got a Lambo who thinks he's special. Not that there were Lambos back in the day, but you see my point.
I was there actually. I witnessed it. on the island, and then the royal family's grandkids wanted to take a photo, and I made a joke. I was like, I'm available too if you guys want to take a photo after.
You'd take a better photo than me, though. To be fair.
But I remember they were like, yeah, took a photo with Dan, and they're like, sorry, Mr. Joule, you were surprised. You're like, oh, you sure? Like, yeah, we love your video, and I watched that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I mean, that's the next generation of this country as well.
Exactly, man.
Right? And they're more social media aware.
I'll pay that. No, I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm honored to have a lot of people who want to see what I have to say, and that inspires me to do better. But predominantly, I'm pushing towards Islam, traditional values, genuine traditional masculinity, which is pretty much lost nowadays.
It is, bro. And you're just like not an arsehole, which I like too. There are a lot of people that, I don't know, they just, like if I was in the room with them, I feel like for too long, like my hate would come out and I'd start cracking on with them. Do you know what I mean? Like there are certain men I can't be around, bro.
I feel you, bro.
You spoke about alphas and sigmas. There's really only room for one alpha in a certain tribe. There's not two typically. Sometimes there is, but everyone else is either like beta, omega, or sigma. And sigma's me. Like I don't care to have the stage. Like you take it. We're always watching for opportunities. And with the alphas, unfortunately, sometimes part of that, like that showcasing, that peacocking is to be an arsehole. And I can't be near them too much. I just can't. Like it. I don't want that. And you have the best kind of like overall personality that I'm more drawn to. Like number one, bro, 100%.
Thank you. And just quickly, with the study of primates, the alphas have higher cortisol levels. They're always looking for combat, always looking for stress. I don't need to be around that. I mean, I'll put Tate as an example. He wakes up and wants combat constantly, conquest constantly. That's how he's built what he's built. And he's inspired a lot of people as a result. Amazing. Inspired me in many ways. I learned a lot from Tate. I don't want that life. I don't want constant high stress levels, high blood pressure, high combat. I want to have that, the made man vibe. I got my people around me. I got my family looked after. You know, alhamdulillah, I got nothing to worry about. You know, alhamdulillah, I wake up, I'm not in pain. Life is beautiful. That's the vibe I'm looking for. So I think, yeah, we all have different takes on masculinity. And I agree. It is hard to be around those who are constantly combat focused if you're not that as well. Because it's tiring. It's a very, very intense frequency, and all strength to him. You know,
For sure.
May God bless him, and may he continue to have a positive impact on hundreds of millions, which is what Tate's done at the end of the day. He's had a positive impact on so many people. Yeah,
and it's important to at least go through that phase once, I think.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. But I don't want to live there forever.
Nah.
Because it is very stressful, and at some point, I believe in enjoying the hard work. And I believe in taking a back seat and letting other people go and do the combat. Yeah. And I can play the mentorship role or the guidance role. That's the village elder role. I don't need to be the guy right at the front of the tribe leading, you know, the sword throwing and, or, you know, the spear chucking, all that stuff. I'm happy to sit back and do a bit of village elder role and enjoy the benefits of having put in the work. Isn't it interesting? Modern culture doesn't really tell you this. But as a man, and maybe you found this as well, life only gets really good mid-30s onwards.
Yeah.
My teen years, military, angry, poor, terrible, you know, my 20s, struggle, working all around the world in all sorts of conflict zones. 30s also, the stress of a corporate job. But so late 30s onwards, things just started to get smooth. And now, 42, man, life is sweet. Like it's, I call it sort of the made man vibe. I got nothing to worry about. I could sit and do nothing and my family are looked after forever. Yeah. I still have enough energy to really get amazing gym sessions in. I can travel anywhere in the world that I want. Like, I got amazing brothers around me. I've found faith. Like, I really do believe the young men of today need to hear that if you're doing things right, up until mid-30s, your life should suck. Embrace that suck. That's what sets you up to live 35 onwards, inshallah, as a made man, where every day I wake up in a state of gratitude. I wake up in a state of connection to family, to God, and just, I hit highs. I hit genuine, objective high states without even coffee, without anything, because I've put in the work over many years. I don't think modern culture tells men that.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I can't give them most.
40s are amazing, by the way.
40s, all of my mentors, and I got some mentors, some guys who I couldn't even mention, like multi-billionaires, leaders of countries, big shots. And they always say 40s are the golden years, man. Yeah. You've got the energy of youth, you're training, you're doing whatever you want around the world, you're still building, but you also got that bit of that grey hair. You can't be flamoosed, you know, you know a thing or two. You've got your inner circle and your ability to weed people out dialed in. You know, everyone talks about networking. I anti-network. I cut away as many people as I can.
Yeah.
In your 40s, you've got it together such, but you've still got the energy of youth. They are the best years. And what do we see with medical technology, with things like TRT and peptides? You can extend that. I know a guy in his 60s, Captain Pete, shout out to Captain Pete. He looks like he's in his 40s, and he's riding his motorbike around Europe. He's got an incredible backstory. He was working high threat situations, as a security professional. He was DEA agent. He was a pilot. He's done a bunch of, stuff that, for US government that you don't even want to talk about. Interesting dude. He's lived well, and he's just in his 60s.
Yeah.
He's vibing. He's training. He's
He looks
adventuring.
amazing.
It's, if you've put the work in and haven't trashed your body or mind too much, your best years just start in your late 30s. It's a real thing.
I believe it. I mean, this guy's really good at speaking about that topic because I haven't had the internal dialogue. But to be honest with you, there are times where I miss the suckier years too. I miss that building. I appreciate every year, every decade. The only times that absolutely sucked for me was biochemically when I was trash from drugs and alcohol. So it doesn't matter what was going on in that day, I wasn't connecting. And also for me, when you've done enough like benzos after partying and alcohol, but I can't really remember a lot of the years. You'll retell stories. I'm like, I can't remember them.
Yeah,
I genuinely,
that's scary, man.
I got amnesia. I don't remember. So that's kind of my advantage. I wake up and I don't really have any like particular traumas or issues. I'm like, oh yeah, sort of remember that.
For most people, I think what you've been through will be pretty traumatic, brother.
Yeah, I mean, that word, like, again, with the whole, in our crew, it's like I'll call it a forbidden word. It's like, we just say that's life. That's just life.
True, it's what builds you. Yeah.
It's what builds you. So I don't really like talk about those topics.
I like it. Conscious
much.
word choice is a good thing. Yep.
Yep. But I can say one thing. I mean, I'm 35 this year, and coming to Dubai has been a blast so far, bro. I'll just say that.
You're doing it right this time, man. You're creating your own custom-made reality in the best city in the world, as opposed to, I'm in Dubai, I need to go to a beach club. I'm in Dubai, I need to go and flex with a Rari. You can really create your ultimate day-to-day reality in this city.
Yeah.
I mean, in Australia, you can't, man. You're doing well in Australia, they want to cut you down. Whereas here, it's flex positive. The leaders want you to do well, otherwise people wouldn't come. This really is the place, man. God bless this country.
Yeah.
God bless this country.
I feel like my life started. My life ever since I moved to UAE, my life just started.
I'll put that.
Everything before was just building.
I want to say one thing to your point with missing the sucky days. I went to Afghanistan for a security task that turned into like a tourism trip because it's just so safe. I enjoyed that such that I've decided to recreate some of the hard stuff. I've just bought a bike the other day, 7th motorbike. I'm trying to have less vehicles. It was an accident. The new GSA, the BMW motorbike, the 1300 that you can travel around the world, they release it and it's green and gold. The same green, the same gold that I use in all my vehicles. I'm like, all right, now I need it. So I messaged my guy and, getting delivered in a few days with all the mods on it. I'm going to ride that, inshallah, through Saudi, through Iraq, through Syria, through Turkey and into Europe.
Wow.
And so I'm going to go back to the places where I used to work, and I still have the languages there, and not so much create content, but just get back into that, back in the day where it wasn't about money or it wasn't about status. It was about good old adventures with the lads that involve a bit of struggle. Yeah. So if you've got a motorbike license, bro, welcome to join. I'm going to recreate some of the good old difficult days while still having, the budget to say, you know what, tonight's a nice hotel, lads. I've had enough. I need a good shower.
Yeah.
So I think when you get to a certain point, you do miss those good old hard days. You can recreate them. Motorbike touring is a great way to do it. Going off to fight in a camp in Thailand for a month is a great way to do it. I think there are many ways to recreate that struggle, even though you're a made man and you don't need to struggle anymore. Because we do need it as men. We really do.
Yeah, no, that's, you got to go through those phases. I do that as well. It's weird. Like even at the gym, you can do it for an hour.
Yeah.
Like I have a mild heart condition. We won't talk about it here because we spoke about complaining. And anyway, like the ectopics get bad, like the heart will go boom, 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 boom.
Bro.
It's not inherently dangerous, but trust me, when you're exercising vigorously and it comes on, you can faint. And I'll just push through the bag sometimes, just to know, like, yeah, I still got it.
Still there. So I know you're a crypto guy, mate. I get a lot of people finally warming up to crypto now. I mean, I was playing around in these areas with mixed success for many years. For those who are saying, is now still a good time to buy Bitcoin? What would your response be?
Yes, as long as you're willing to hold it for at least 5 to 10 years. I am not a trader, so I'm a hodler through and through. So Bitcoin is going up anywhere from 1 to 1,000 days from now. I don't know when. I never predict when, which is why I'm never wrong, you know? So I come out of the woodwork when Bitcoin's at an all-time high just to say, told you so, mate. But that's part of the thesis as why people get into Bitcoin, which leads me into this preach, right? And the good side of Bitcoin. We all know number go up. You know, Bitcoin goes up, invest in it, you get wealthier, right? But people forget that the actual design, all right, Satoshi Nakamoto, was so that people came for the greed to stay for the revolution. Why? Let's take a look at the US dollar. You want to start a war? Print dollars. Because they can. It's a central authority. They can print as much as they want, buy weapons, go and invade any country they want. The day they can't print anymore, and this is the global currency, that's it. You can't fund wars. So the most ethical thing you can do is buy and use Bitcoin. There's so much ethics behind it. So just there, I'll just leave that there.
I love that. Yep. The military-industrial complex is true evil incarnate, and so Bitcoin is a political stance against that. I love it, man. Beautiful.
Coming from a guy got experience with that industry as well.
Oh, true evil, bro. True evil. Like, people don't understand how evil the war machine is. The goal is not to end a war; it is endless war.
Wow.
And then it's time to recreate that as soon as the public sentiment and patience for a certain war runs out, move on to the next one. The most perfect example, after 20 years of war in Afghanistan, and if you want to go down a rabbit hole, why are they even fighting the Taliban? It was Al-Qaeda who brought down the towers. The Afghans didn't want the Arabs to come in the 80s to fight the Russians. It was the Americans who said, no, we're going to pay the Arabs to come in. So anyway, and then 30 or 20 years later, we go and invade Afghanistan. Anyway, that's a whole different discussion. But 20 years of war, all the machinery gets left there. You think America will try and salvage some of it? No. Those hundreds of millions or hundreds of billions of dollars of machinery that was left and is now owned and controlled by apparently the enemy, the Taliban, that had done its job. The job is to move money in certain ways. And the fact that the Taliban took control of Afghanistan a matter of weeks afterwards, 20 years and trillions of dollars, and how many people's lives destroyed for what? For 2 weeks? And now Afghanistan is safer. Crime's down, poppy production is down, opium production is down. The country is objectively better without all these trillions of dollars being spent. It is such a blatant scam and just a way to move tax. I mean, it really is as simple as bringing US and UK tax dollars into somewhere where you can put massive profit margins on something and just shelve the profit yourself. It's that simple. You're creating demand to move money around. It's absolutely disgusting.
Wow. What a statement.
Yeah,
It's not to end war, but to continue war.
Yeah, endless war is the goal.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a
It's
statement.
terrible, man. And it continues to this day in Ukraine. And that war can continue for 10 days. It'll finish in the same way as if it finished tomorrow. The border will be decided here. Okay, Ukraine, sorry, you can't join NATO. Putin, you agree not to come forward anymore. All right, that's done. That's going to happen tomorrow or in 10 years. How many more people are going to die? It depends how long the war machine, the propagandists can drag it out such that the people believe. All these people putting Ukraine flags in their bio, you are guilty of being programmed by the war machine, you disgusting, disgusting sheep. And young men are going to continue dying on both sides for as long as it can be drawn out until the public say, hey, what's the point of this? Hey, what was the point of Vietnam? It was to stop that red wave from coming through Asia. After X amount of years, it was 15, 20 years, the Vietnam War in total, if you include all the different parts. America left under fire. It was a fighting withdrawal. They lost that war. That red wave of communism didn't go anywhere. So all these endless wars, the Iraq War, what was the point of that? All these wars are just ways to funnel money for as long as the public will tolerate it and believe that it's a good cause. And now finally people are starting to say, hang on, this Ukraine war doesn't make sense, which to me means it should wrap up soon. But then the question is, what's the next battleground that gets started? Hopefully while Trump's in it, it won't kick off. But when the liberals, the so-called tolerant good guys, the progressive guys come in, watch them find the next war zone to keep it going as long as they can. It's the oldest, sickest game in the book. It's true evil. So if Bitcoin stands up to that, I love that, man. I never heard that put it that way. I would have bought a bunch more if that was told to me when I first discovered Bitcoin back in 2017.
That's the reason for it, because it's the only currency that you can't print into infinity, and it's the only currency that no central authority can control. And that is the basis of war. You have to fund it first.
That's awesome, man. Love it.
Gentlemen,
Yep.
Appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I respect both of you. I got a lot of love for both of you. before we wrap up, I want you to look at the camera. Jules, your camera's there. Daniel, your camera's there. I want you to look into the camera and I want you to give a brief statement to the viewers watching. A brief statement of what you want to be remembered for, or something that you want to convey right now at the period of time you're at in your life.
If I was to give like a Dr. Phil's final thought, I think the main issue with humanity nowadays is that of distraction. And when you're in a distracted state, flicking around on your phone, you're getting programmed. When you're listening to music, you're getting programmed. When you're hanging around low frequency people, you're getting programmed. Like, if you don't consciously choose your own belief system to live by, society will put it on you and then boof, you're a sheep and your life is unfulfilled. The conscious programming I choose to live by is Islam. It's brought massive benefits to my life. And as an extension from that, I'm very careful with what I consume on the phone. I never just flick around because that's dangerous. I'm very careful about the people I'm around, the spaces I'm in. If you don't consciously guard what goes into your brain, if you don't consciously guard being around only people with the right type of energy, right type of ethics, with the state of humanity nowadays, you will get wrecked. So you need to be hyper careful and hyper conscious of the energies you're around in terms of spaces and people and content you create, or you are going to be a sheep and you're going to get played by the machine. That would be my 2 cents.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well said. Daniel?
First, I'd like to thank Joule for hosting us,
Habibi.
and you, Radin, for being the mediator. Done a good job, bro.
Thank you.
You know, I'm definitely a fan, bro.
Oh,
So-
mate, honoured. Likewise, thank you.
Once again, it's an honor. I'm here in the UAE. They have treated me like absolute royalty. Literally, people from the political protocol have sent me food to my house. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that would happen. The Emiratis are absolute gentlemen. I just want to say that. Like, these guys, their charisma,
Class, mate. Yeah.
total class. They never ask. I found out that's actually part of Islam. So Islam is fundamental into their behavior. And as I'm here, I want to study as much as possible about Islam so that I can see how it's translated into the safest, most prosperous country in the world. The whole world is watching the Emirates right now. How have they done this? Every race, every religion, people with face tattoos, all living in harmony, rich people, poor people, no violence.
No
It's
racism.
no racism. It's a pipe dream, right? Couldn't happen before. Immigration, there's 90% immigrants here in Dubai. Over immigration is bad, says Australia, EU, or people that criticize it. All the things you think about are happening here for the better. So my goal number one is to study that. And number two, during those studies, I noticed something terrible within the Emirati population. It's diabetes. It is an epidemic here. 25% of Emiratis have diabetes and up to 42% of them are pre-diabetics, which isn't much better. So my goal, not my side quest, my main quest, is to reduce the incidence of diabetes and pre-diabetes here in the UAE with lifestyle changes.
Awesome.
That's it.
I love
Beautiful.
that, man. I love that. Needed and honourable. That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Giving. If you come from a place of giving value to this country and to the people here, the rewards are huge. And that's what healthy, like logical immigration is. Come in, add value, reap the benefits. Love it, man. You're embodying that really clearly.
Thank you, bro.
I mean, it's tough. The food here is amazing, right? The Dubai chocolate is incredible.
We need to
Right.
check to see if someone else is pre-diabetic.
It's like, good luck with that. By the way, we were with some royal like protocol the other day, and the box of sweets that they bought us. Have you started that?
Yes, obviously, I eat a lot of sweets, but I am the furthest thing from a diabetic. I'm going to go with the slogan, muscle is medicine. So I won't get too sciencey at the moment, but the more muscle mass you have, I'm not talking about being a bodybuilder. That is your glucose disposal sink. So imagine a sink, you got to fill it up, and if the water spills over, that's diabetes. So the bigger the sink, the bigger the muscle, the more carbohydrates you can tolerate. People are under-muscled here. It's called skinny fat, sarcopenia. So all I'm trying to do is to help people get to the gym 2 times a week, do 2 times a week cardio, and do 2 grams per kilo of protein. It's going to reduce diabetes massively. I'm not talking about fancy machinery or medications, none of that. This is cheap. We'll open up a few more gyms and get a few more trainers. That's it. Trust me, it'll work. You'll see.
Awesome. I love
Beautiful.
it. I love it. Let me know if I
Beautiful.
can support that, man. That's awesome.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I love both your visions and both your tasks that you guys are doing, and honored to call you guys my friends, and looking forward to doing more of this more in the future.
Let's recreate this in various places around the world. Whether it's after
That's
a
amazing.
hunting trip or after a motorbike trip, that's the future, man. Just sitting in a nice, luxurious members club is nice, but imagine having this chat by the fire after hunting boar in South Africa, or after
Wow.
driving motorbikes through, you know, far eastern Turkey. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot we can do with this, bro.
Yeah,
Let's
I agree.
do it.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you. And until next time, let's go.